and welcome to a new episode of the Game Informer Show. I'm Ben Hansen, joined by Leo Vader.
Thank you. I'm happy to be out here.
Yeah, no kidding. We have Elise Favis.
Hi.
Friend of the show, Brian Shea.
Hey.
Friend on the show.
I'm back.
We got a lot to talk about today. This episode is overflowing. My cuppeth overflow, as they once said. We're talking about Control, the new game from Remedy, the creators of Max Payne, Quantum Break, if you played that, Alan Wake, a lot of people's favorites. Control.
Max Payne 2.
And Control is a PS4 exclusive?
No.
Tis not.
Oh, interesting. Well, we'll talk all about it. It's Game
Nice try,
Informer's
though.
new cover story. I'm explaining what it's not to everybody else.
Thank you.
Then we're talking about Devil May Cry 5. We have a lot of experts on that series around this table to talk about it. A little bit about Dead or Alive 6, Mortal Kombat 11. And then, hey, Days Gone. Jeff Cork got to play even more Days Gone. Talk all about that. And then... Also, Leo, do you want to talk about Ape Out?
I'd love to.
I'm excited to talk about Ape Out with Matt Miller, Ape fan number one. Move over, Jane Goodall. We got Miller over here. And then some great community emails on the back half of the show. We have an interview with Glen Schofield. If you remember that name. Yeah.
What a get.
Thank you so much. I'm very excited about it. So if you don't know that name, he's the co-founder, I should say, of Sledgehammer Games. They've made several Call of Duty games, co-developed Modern Warfare 3, Advanced Warfare with a certain celebrity that shall not be named anymore, and then also Call of Duty World War II. That's right. But before that, he was at EA, created Dead Space. He's had a huge career in the game industry. He started working on a game for the Game Boy that was called Barbie Game Girl.
Man.
We talk a little bit about that.
What a portfolio.
It's a crazy history.
He's a gruff dude. I wouldn't have expected his passions to be there.
Yeah, exactly. So we talked to him about his life in the industry, what it's like ever since he left Sledgehammer Games to go to Activision Corporate to start a new IP, which apparently was not accepted by Activision, and then he bailed. So it's kind of just checking up on him on what that was like, his life with Call of Duty in retrospect, a lot of stuff like that. Brent Shea, it looks like you're about to say something very poignant.
No.
Great. It's fun, too, because it's like that weird thing of reaching out for this interview of like, okay, he's not with Activision anymore. How open is this guy going to be? It's like, oh, he can talk about Apex Legends now. He shares his thoughts on that. We talk about just like the overall strategy of Activision, what that company is like on the inside, the challenge of new IP within that studio. He talks about like what it's like to run a Call of Duty studio and little things that you wouldn't expect, including... Hey, it turns out a heap and helping of death threats that had to be taken very seriously. It was like, oh, I never really have heard somebody talk about that. Also, he gives us his very detailed pitch for what he wants from a Dead Space sequel, which is very fun.
Oh, nice.
Also includes some unexpected things in there that fans might not want. Yes, Brian Shea.
I will look forward to that interview.
God bless you, man. Also on the site real quick, I want to plug everything under the sun. But most importantly, JV said, hey, he's really hot on this game from 3D Realms called Wrath, which is like a throwback first-person shooter. He said, hey, if you like, was it Dusk that came out late last year and stuff? He said it's in that vein. But I love the idea of 3D Realms making a new throwback shooter.
It's based on the Quake 1 engine.
Is that right?
I believe so.
That's cool.
That was announced today.
Very cool. Hey, Elise Favis.
Hey.
You wrote the cover story for Control.
I sure did.
And the three of you went out to Finland for it. This is
That
such
we did.
a funky crew for a cover story trip. Did it feel like that when you're out there?
Thank you. I don't know.
Yeah, we don't like each other at all.
I kept saying, this is funky.
Terrible.
It feels funky to me, I feel like.
And then he did a funky dance while he said
Oh,
it.
my God.
That's how I knew.
Okay, Control, Elise, I assume we're all looking forward to it a decent amount.
Yes.
What was like the biggest surprise being at the studio? What didn't you know about the game?
I think one of the cooler things that we found out was just how they were rebuilding their AI. And they had...
Oh, what?
It's true.
Yeah, they rebuilt their AI completely. What was it called again? The
Encounter Director
The Encounter
system.
Director. Yeah, which improves a lot from their past games, especially Quantum Break. And it... You might be better at
So
saying
basically,
it in a succinct way.
all of Remedy's games to this point, like Alan Wake, Max Payne, Quantum Break, have all been very linear and like kind of intentional encounters, right?
Sure.
Specifically planned.
Yeah, so like they're like, all right, when you come
around
around this corner, these guys are going to come at you, and then you get to this point in the battle, and then these other enemies will come out. They've just kind of been able to chart out every single encounter to this point. But Control being kind of a more open game,
much
like
more open,
less in control.
Less linear.
Yeah, a lot less linear. You can just kind of go wherever you want in the oldest house, which is the setting. By the way,
We have a lot to explain, but
we
yes.
do.
Yeah.
there are a lot of terms. But so they have this like wave-based procedural spawning system that they've developed,
What? Okay.
Yeah, so it like determines like based on where you are in the game, and like it spawns like
Yeah,
it
depending
like
on
does all
your-
these like calculations to like say like you're going to have like this level of intensity in this, and that'll be comprised of like different like types of enemies that have different values
It's
assigned.
just the Left 4 Dead director is in a Remedy game. Is that what we're talking about here?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm amazed. Why did it have such a big impact on you guys? Like, why do you think?
It's funny, we're getting into this weird specific thing right
Yeah,
away,
I
but it's like
know.
if you ask what the most interesting
That
thing was,
was
that's
the
what we were
most-
talking about after.
It
Like
was.
they walked us through this tech they're using, and it's so cool.
I don't know. I think just that shift from more scripted encounters to procedural generation
Yeah.
enemies is an interesting thing for Remedy.
Yeah.
So I thought that shift was cool.
Okay.
And I've always been kind of not that hot on Remedy's combat in past games.
Oh, interesting.
So I think also another surprising thing was just how dynamic and tight that combat felt this time around.
Did you guys get to play it?
We did.
We
Oh,
sure
very
did.
exciting. Okay,
Yeah.
so let's zoom out a little bit here. So
Sure.
this is, what is the genre?
Action.
Action adventure-ish?
Action adventure.
Supernatural action, I think, is a good way to describe it.
And you play as Jesse exploring this house in New York that's called the Oldest House, which is a trippy kind of hyper-cubish house that is constantly rearranging
Yeah,
itself.
so
all over
it
the place.
is the headquarters of the Federal Bureau of Control, a government agency that is like tasked with investigating like supernatural occurrences throughout the country.
Okay.
And they
Yeah.
go around, they get these supernatural items, and they bring them back to research them. So there's all these like powerful like possessed items all throughout the oldest house as well. So there's like
And it's and the oldest house itself is considered like a place of
Yeah,
power.
place of power.
Which basically means that it has different dimensions that kind of seep in, and it's just one of those kind of strange sort of supernatural zones across the country.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
this is it? Can we say Metroidvania?
that's
Dude,
Yeah,
I think
we
they've
can.
said
We
that.
can.
We can officially say it.
It has that kind of progression in the sense that there are these things called objects of power that you find around the oldest house, and when you find those, they give you different abilities, but you can find different ones in different orders, and they're all kind of placed in different areas.
And the abilities are crazy. It's like you're flying or
So
hovering
yeah,
around and stuff.
I think my favorite was levitate.
Yeah.
Which is just so much fun to fly around, and then you can combine them with different things. Like you might, you can levitate atop, and up high above enemies, and then like slam down on the ground.
Yeah, that's why like using melee. So like it's like you
Yeah.
levitate, then you use melee, and it causes you to slam down into the ground. You can like air dodge by using the evade button.
Yep. Yeah, it's really cool. Levitating in the air just kind of feels like you're swimming, but
Yeah, she looks
While you
very
fly.
unsure of herself when she's doing
Yeah.
it.
Oh, I love it. It's like the good like Iron Man taking off, like
Yeah.
struggling animation. I love that stuff.
What
Yeah.
else? There was Seize, which was cool, where once you weaken enemies, you can take over their minds basically, and they'll work for you.
Yeah, you turn them on your side basically.
Great. Always fun.
Yeah. So that there's and Shield, which kind of makes a makeshift shield where you kind of concrete just kind of comes. Sorry,
Pulls up from
I'm
the
so bad
floor.
at talking.
Do you like
You
summon
can pull
concrete?
concrete from the floor, and then it kind of like comes at you at like a magnet, and then it becomes your makeshift shield.
That's what we
Yeah,
got
like-
the biggest taste of was the combat, definitely more than
Yes.
like playing the story or anything. We just
okay.
spent a lot of time doing the free combat
Yeah.
in the lobby.
Yeah, we explored a little bit in the
did.
lobby. We fought a bunch of enemies, and we watched a bunch of playthroughs of some of the missions.
It was fun just exploring that like research lobby that we were in, because like your first look at it, it just looks like an average like lobby, and like maybe not that interesting because it has this kind of like brutalist concrete look to it.
Okay.
But then there's all these secret areas. Like there's a basement that has all this like fungus growing on the walls and different like lore stuff to find.
Kind of like Last of Us enemies like creeping down there. It was
Oh, really?
It was
Yeah,
weird.
fungal
Yeah.
looking.
Oh, I guess I just expected it to just be agents of control that you're fighting, but it's like
And-
weird monsters and stuff.
Oh
also.
no, they there are a lot the supernatural threat that you're trying to gain control of is called the Hiss.
The hiss.
Yeah, and
Okay.
the Hiss possesses ex-employees of the Bureau. So they all kind of have
Okay.
this sort of zombie look to them. And some of them are flying, some of them are, not that far in their transformation yet.
Yeah.
So they're still like, exclusive to ground combat.
So I think it was the director Michael Kasserinen.
Very
is how I
impressive.
think
Yeah.
I'll go with it.
He kind of described it as like their possession of these people are like kind of in like different phases of like a disease where it's like, all right, at first it's not so bad, and then it like steadily worsens, and like as it worsens, they gain new abilities. Like some of them can like fly around and like use similar abilities as Jesse, so like they can like pick up parts of like the environment and throw it at you too.
And they look less and less human.
Become more and more bullet spongy.
I'm sure.
Got it. Okay, perfect. Leo, did you like this game?
I did. I liked it a lot. I was surprised by the amount of pieces of the environment that were destructible, which hasn't happened in a long time, I think, in a game for me. Just like knocking somebody back with melee and they fall through a waist-high cover and just smash through the concrete and it falls into 100 pieces on the ground.
Ooh.
Like their whole physics engine.
Is pretty impressive.
If you want to know what this game is, think of it like a sci-fi knack. Because shut up. Because there are so many particles flying around at all times.
Really?
Just picking up a filing cabinet and papers are flying everywhere and then throwing it at an enemy and glass
or even
shatters.
things like hooked on the wall, like an extinguisher, and then you see it splatter, and I don't know, it's a lot of fun.
That
Yeah,
sounds awesome.
I mean,
it's very sandboxy.
I
and
think
fun
what
like
was
that.
nice too was like I was sort of worried that it wouldn't be so accurate when I'm like looking at, because all you do is like point the camera in a certain direction, and then you're like, okay, I want to pick that up or whatever, but things are highlighted so you know exactly like what you want.
But it's kind of like a subtle highlight. Like it doesn't really take you out of the experience. I think it's
No.
just kind of like showing like what Jesse is looking at when you're aiming in that direction and what
Okay.
you would pick up if you
If you
chose
wanted
to
to
pick
use
something
your
up.
force, push and pull, and all that stuff. Okay.
And like other areas that we found were like we went into like this room and there was like this weird like 50s motel setting all of a sudden.
Ooh.
And like it was a maze. I think kind of like Lost Woods, where like you're walking and like the walls just start like kind of rippling away as you walk to them.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's so
And-
it's so interesting. I loved that part, and just that kind of like contrast between old and new that you see
Yeah.
a lot in this setting, because the oldest house was found in like the 60s, I believe, and so there is a lot of like old machinery and just weird shit from decades ago.
Okay.
And then like that's kind of contrasted with like modern stuff, or even like Jesse's own clothing that's more casual and modern.
They did talk
I
a
don't
lot
know,
about
it's pretty
that
cool.
that visual
Contrast.
contrast
Yeah.
and leaning into that, and it makes every scene look really distinct and memorable.
Okay.
Yeah, and like even like with the hiss contrasting with the building itself, where the building is like very sharp edges and concrete and solid, and the hiss is like this fluid entity that you have no idea what it is.
Right. To bear down on one micro-specific thing, also,
Please.
throwing stuff into the wall actually made a 3D concave dent in the concrete. Like you could turn and look and it actually put a dent in the wall, which like I didn't even know we were there yet technologically.
Did you raise your hand? We're there! We're there! I've seen it!
The bastards did it. But stuff like that was really impressive. Like the engine they're working with seems really strong.
Do we?
it's
And it's
pretty
just their in-house engine, like the same as Quantum Break, I presume.
I think so. I'm
I
not
don't
sure
want
though.
to say for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. It looks like that, but now it's 505 publishing.
Right.
That's bizarre.
Yeah.
Did
Yeah.
you get any insight into why they went with 505?
Yeah, a little bit. They said, they've been with Microsoft for, nearly a decade at this point. And
With Alan Wake and Quantum Break.
Yeah, and and Max Payne 2 was just
Oh.
Xbox on PC. Anyway, yeah, so it's been a long time that they've been kind of under that wing, and they said that they wanted more control over, like, no pun intended.
I mean, I think it's very literally that's why they named it that, honestly.
Yeah.
To like harness more control over their IPs, and from what I understand, previous IPs like Quantum Break were actually owned by Microsoft.
Right.
So this way they can just have more power over what directions they want to take the series.
So
and
505
things
doesn't
like
own
that.
this game.
I believe not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. What was your take on Remedy overall? Did you get to high five Sam Lake? Any good?
Yeah, we had
studio?
lunch with him.
How'd that go?
It was fun. It was cool. It was one of those pinch myself moments of like, what a weird job. I'm just,
I know what that
Max
was.
Payne is sitting 2 feet away from me eating hot dogs.
He's so cool. He's really chill and really interesting to talk to.
He was
I
really
liked
cool.
picking his brain.
And that studio is beautiful. They have
Oh
this
my God.
three
Yeah.
three
Yeah, they
floor
just
plus
got
a
a new,
basement building all to themselves with this glass elevator in the middle of it.
Ooh,
Super
glass
cool.
elevator. Jeez, that's awesome. Any other good exclusives we got that we haven't talked about yet?
Motion capture studio. We got to go down and see their motion capture studio, which will be a video feature coming later this month on
GameInformer.com/control.
Totally. One other thing I want to touch upon is just like the storytelling.
Please.
I really got a lot of like Alan Wake vibes from it, just in the sense that it's definitely like David Lynch inspired, very like Twin Peaks like, and the whole point of it is like Jessie is trying to understand her past and understand her supernatural abilities, so she goes to this Bureau of Control to find answers. And what they said what was really interesting was like so much of what you see is like questionable, and so much of like what you understand, well, there's a limit to what you understand, and like it's going to be like mystery upon mystery, and kind of reminded me of like Virginia in a way, of like
Wow.
of like a story that can be interpreted in so many different ways.
Right.
And-
Really?
They're not intending to answer every
and they
question.
don't want
Yeah.
to answer everything. And I love that. Like I love stories like that. So if they can pull that off, I think that would be really interesting.
Something that they didn't pitch this, but it's something we talked about behind the scenes, was comparing the Bureau of the Control to like the Dharma Initiative from Lost. Just like these realistic, straightforward experiments, kind of these little localized experiments on these different areas of supernatural phenomena.
It's such a good premise for a game.
It is. They
very
talked
good
about
one.
building the world first and then the story after, and
Yes,
you can
which-
really see that in the way that stuff works out.
Which they have not done before. So
Right.
This was
In that
this
order.
this is a different order this time.
Okay.
Right.
So
In addition to the Lynch inspiration, in Leo's rapid fire questions, which you can also see at that same hub web address, Michael, the game director, says that Kubrick was also an inspiration for a lot of the visuals and imagery they
Yeah.
used.
Yeah.
that's true.
How was the rapid fire filming, Leo?
It was fun.
He's a very straight man.
Yeah, he was perfect. He was like so dry in just the right way. I was really happy with how that
It was
came
great.
out.
Yeah, he was pleased enough. I was confused when you said like, what's the scariest game you've ever played? And he said Control.
Creepiest.
Creepiest. Sorry, but then later on he's like, it's not a horror game. It's like, well, I don't know what this is at this point.
Yeah.
Is it?
I think it has horror elements, but it's not strictly a horror game.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's what he's
You
So
run
it's
into that
creepy.
sometimes. I remember with Condemned 2, it was like, I'm having too much fun to be scared right now. Like, this combat system is just too great.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else is coming up throughout the month? GameInformer.com/control.
Well, let's
Deep dive on abilities.
Yep.
I'll also have a look at the way they're approaching side missions, a new thing kind of for Remedy, and also a deep dive on the oldest house. And Elise, what do you have coming?
I'm going to be talking a whole lot about the storytelling, some of the stuff that I mentioned in this
Yeah.
podcast. The astral plane, I'm going to kind of dive into what that place is, which is where Jessie binds to new abilities. She has to like fight different enemies to like prove herself there. It's like in a different dimension.
It's kind of like a Dishonored type thing. Okay.
Yeah. We
It's-
saw a little bit of behind the scenes, way early stuff that they did not want to give us at all because it was so early. But you were just like fighting this giant cosmic monster in the astral plane, flying around
It was
shooting
so
it.
creepy. It was like this tentacle thing with a
giant
giant eye.
It was
And then
cool.
like its pupil shoots out at you. I don't know. It was so
But it was
bizarre.
no AI spawning system. I understand. I get it. That sounds great.
Yeah, I think those are like the two that I'm most looking forward to.
That sounds great. Leo, video-wise, Rapid Fire's already out there, so all the fun's over, right?
you wish. The abilities, we got a video on that, as well as a service weapon, that single pistol you
Yeah,
have
we
that
didn't even-
transforms
yeah.
into a bunch of different forms. We've got to look at a bunch of different forms of that.
Sweet.
Then that motion capture video.
Which was like, what's going on there?
They suited up. Elise and Shay both suited up, did the T poses,
Oh,
did the
wow.
base animations, and recorded something that may end up in the game.
Elise, was it fun?
It was fun, but you can totally tell that Shay goes to the gym and I don't.
Shay, did you ever stop flexing inside that suit? Did you just keep ripping suits? I need another
No, he's
mocap
just so
suit.
much more coordinated than I am.
Yeah, they made us do like kind of some warm-ups to kind of calibrate the suits that we were wearing, and it was like, all right, now like squat down and jump up, and all right, now stand on one foot and touch the bottom of your other foot.
Oh my God.
And they had the
14
live
jumping
feed
jacks.
of the wireframes of them
was
on the
fun.
screen, and I could look at it and then look at them.
Oh,
and it
that's
was
fun.
1-to-1. It was so cool.
Yeah, at one point I possessed Shay.
Yeah.
Pretty good. Good times.
What were you?
I was being Jessie.
Yeah, she
Oh,
was
so I
Jessie, and I was an enemy.
Okay, so and you're mocapped in the game then, so Jesse's animations are all going to be awkward and winded.
It's funny because she was
Precisely.
she was wearing Courtney Hope's mocap suit. They told us who was the protagonist in Control. She plays Jessie, and I was wearing the mocap suit of Matthew Peretta, who is Alan Wake.
Oh.
So
Yeah,
Both
who
never
also makes an
watched.
appearance in this game. Well, not Alan Wake, but the voice actor.
Okay.
Yeah, they actually have like kind of the Remedy All-Stars because they have the voice actor of Max Payne, the voice actor of Alan Wake, Courtney, who was
Quantum
Beth
Break.
in Quantum Break.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's a bunch of old Remedy actors coming back and
That's fun.
getting
Yeah.
the band back together.
It's an exciting story, and the cover story's good, right, Elise? I haven't read it yet.
I would say it's good.
Was it Was it fun to write?
It was my first one. It was really fun to write. Very, very quick deadline, but I don't know. It was. I'm really hoping to do more of those. I love meeting developers. I love going to their studios and seeing like these passion projects come to life. It's so exciting, so fun.
Do you want to do the next one?
We'll see. I might want to break after Control.
Oh, a little quantum break.
Quantum break.
GameInformer.com/control, everybody.
Yeah.
A lot of fun stuff throughout the month. For now, do the three of you want to clap out?
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Oh my gosh, Leo, thank you.
This is fun.
We get probably 4 emails a week saying either I want Leo to father my children or
Okay.
get him out of that MFing booth.
Into my womb.
That's right. All right, and on that note, you guys want to clap out?
Let's do it.
Hey, what a mess. We got Joe Juba.
Hey.
Cyril Vasquez.
Hello.
Kyle Hilliard.
Hey.
The DMC crew. Devil May Cry. Devil May Cry's back, everybody, with the 5th one.
They did it.
Here we go. Joe, you are
Sixth
a
one.
Mondo fan.
I am, yeah.
I'm so excited to hear your thoughts on this.
Suriel is also.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Played
Yeah.
all of them except 2.
And Kyle?
I'm a weird fan in
No
that
doubt.
I've played them all, and like I think Ninja Theories is my favorite, but I like them all.
Sure.
Yeah.
I've only played one, and it was Ninja Theories, so it is by default my favorite. And I did love that game. Okay,
good, yeah.
What's it like to go back to this thing? It's out of the gate, maybe. Joe,
Yeah.
review score, please.
8.5.
Perfect. Now, how is it going back? What is it like to go back to Capcom's Devil May Cry?
I mean, it's. I really like it. It feels like a return home in some ways, right? Like I also enjoyed Ninja Theory's reboot, but there's something about like, for instance, when I went back a few years ago and replayed the Devil May Cry 4, or like played that special edition when it came out.
Yeah.
There's just something that's like so comfortable and awesome about that core combat formula in Devil May Cry.
Is it nostalgia that's awesome?
No,
Okay.
no. Because here's what's weird is that, like, I don't know, I guess part of me feels like nostalgia for that series is very different partially because like the story and the world is just so like gonzo and stupid that I don't feel any particular like connection to a lot of it in that same way. So
It's just a connection to the gameplay.
yeah, exactly. And I think that they do a good job in every installment of taking that core gameplay that you like, but also evolving it so it feels modern. So it doesn't always just feel like it's this throwback stuck in the PS2 era, right? And DMC5 does that pretty well.
Okay, that was a long, pretty. I think there are a couple R's and a couple E's in there. Why the hesitation?
For me, anyway, I think some of the hesitation comes from the things that they add in this game. I don't think expand it or make it more interesting in the same way that the things they've added in previous installments have. Like Devil May Cry 3, adding Dante's like style system
Yeah.
and like the more like on the fly sort of like weapon switching combo flow and stuff. And then DMC4 adding Nero's like Devil Bringer, that arm, added like a new dimension of mobility to the combat. And this one, it's like putting some spins on those things that were already there, where the big addition is this third playable character who,
V has come too.
yeah, well, that's a different, you know what I mean.
Huh?
It's a good
So
joke.
I don't know. I'm
appreciate
doing a lot of talking here. Like, what Kyle and Suriel, what do you guys think of V?
I think he is that guy I knew in high school who was way too into Devil May
Oh, you mean
Cry.
Adam Driver?
Yeah, I mean, he's like as a character, he reads a lot of poetry and he looks very sad. And
Like literally, it's just This is his character.
You literally like you hold the right trigger to open a book and read a poem to like raise your combat ability.
Like V is the guy where you look at Dante and Nero, and like if they went to your high school, you'd be like, they're kind of goths. But then like V would be over here saying like, no, I'm real goth. Like I'm way more goth than these kids are.
Yeah.
So what's the point of adding this V freeze?
So he plays very differently than Dante and Nero, which I think is like conceptually, I think he's very interesting in that you're sort of sitting back and attacking with your sort of animal familiars. So you have a bird who acts as your gun basically, and the panther who acts as your sword. And so you're sort of swapping these attacks, and they have their own sort of permutations depending on different moves you can do. And then instead of your devil trigger, you can summon the nightmare, which is this giant hulking brute that just wrecks everything. But I think Joe, and I are pretty like simpatico on this in that. Like so far, V is interesting, but in practice, I feel like he makes most of the levels he's in feel inconsequential in that he is the easiest of the characters to just like go nuts with and score really easy ranks without really trying.
Because he stays away from combat. Like that's his thing, is that the Griffin and the Panthers are the ones that are sort of in the fray, and if you're playing him well, he's generally like staying pretty far back. So it's easy to get those high combat multipliers because he's not really getting hit. He's not getting interrupted.
And you can choose who to play out of the...
No.
Okay.
No. But and that gets into something we'll talk about in a little bit. But like for V anyway, you can get those high scores and finish the fights, but I had trouble like finishing the fights, and I guess the way to say it would be like I wasn't necessarily doing it the way I wanted or expected to. There's something that feels a little like haphazard about the way he works, that it's like, okay, I want to do this move. And that move just didn't work the way that, like, it didn't pull off the way I thought it should or when I thought it should. So then it's like, well, okay, I guess I still won, but I don't feel like satisfied.
It doesn't feel precise, and there's a, like, so far in the main, on the sort of the default, the highest default difficulty you can play on Devil Hunter, like, it doesn't feel, I don't feel satisfied with, like, okay, I did something really cool during that fight. It just feels like there was literally one encounter where at some point I just acknowledged that I'm going to get more, like the best way to approach this fight is to just turn my controller sideways, hold the X button down, and mash Y intermittently, and just fire waves and waves of damage on people without really moving. Because the thing about those enemies is that they feel like they're more designed around Dante and Nero, which is, if they get close to me, attack them. And I don't feel like there's an enemy that really specifically threatens V when he's so far away.
But he's not designed to be like as Kyle would understand, the Funky Kong in the Tropical Freeze. He's not designed for like, this is the easy mode character, so if you want to play it like this.
No, because you don't pick him at the beginning.
Right,
he just has a couple of levels sort of strewn throughout the game. Yeah.
Right. And this gets into, I guess before we dig into this, like what... I want to go back a little bit to like the core combat idea, because it is just like, I think when you're talking about pulling off those like stylish combos, when you're talking about the depth that's available for you to dive into, I think this game sort of stands shoulder to shoulder with Capcom's previous Devil May Cry games.
Okay.
Right? So it's like the combat is a ton of fun. You have a ton of options. It's just like fun to watch everything unfold.
It's easy to switch between weapons, and the weapons are weird in cool ways.
Right.
There's sort of like a jazz improvisation of like, okay, now, this isn't necessarily the most efficient way to do something, but like I'm going to mix, like Dante's sort of like punching and kicking attacks that he has with what's the weapon called? Behemoth?
Yeah, I keep wanting to call it
It's like
Beowulf,
the melee
but that's,
one.
that's
You're
the
basically
old
wearing
one.
Where you're
gauntlets,
switching
yeah.
between punches and kicks, and then I'm going to mix it up with a little bit of like his sword, the rebellion, and then sort of switch.
Motorcycle?
Right, he has a motorcycle that acts as a chainsaw, and you can switch styles with him again. So you can go like, I'm going to do a dodge as trickster, switch into swordmaster, and that gives me like being able to just string these together on the fly is still like immensely fun, and sort of a lot of the mobility stuff you have with like dodging, with Nero being able to pull in enemies, all that stuff works really, really well, and it sort of defines that series in a really nice way that I think separates it from some of the action games that have come out since then. I feel like I had forgotten that, Devil May Cry and Bayonetta, for as often as they're compared, are very different styles of combat. That is sort of one of my biggest takeaways from playing 5, and I'm really enjoying it for sure.
Yeah. And I wanted to lay that foundation before pressing forward a little bit, because these are some of my problems with it that I want to make it clear that I gave the game an 8.5, and all of these things that are good about it are very good. The problem, I think, for me with the way the like character selection is structured is that, with the exception of 2 missions that let you choose which character you want to use for them, all of them are locked to a particular character. So it's like the first like 3 or 4 missions, you're Nero. And then you're V for a little while. And then maybe you choose. And then you're Nero again. And then V, and then Dante, and then Nero. And it's so back and forth. Where that ends up being a problem is it has this sort of like kind of, the momentum starts getting this like start and stop kind of thing where it's like, okay, I'm Nero. Gonna buy some skills, gonna figure out how he plays, gonna like kind of get into a groove. And then the game just sort of like slams on the brakes and says, now you're V.
Right.
But you're V with a blank slate. So you have to rebuy some of those basic moves again.
Yeah, that sucks.
And like you can expect to buy some skills multiple times for Nero, V, and Dante. You have to buy things like Devil Trigger depletes more slowly, double jump, get orbs from a wider radius. Like you're buying those multiple times, and it's just not. That's not interesting or fun.
Right.
There's also like in the way that this feels familiar, there's also a lot of like rebuying the moves that you're already familiar with. Like with Nero, you're buying a lot of his like, okay, you press Y and then hold it a little bit and then Y, and then like those are like very, very similar animations. And so there's not like, there's some new toys to play with, but it feels like you're so slowly unlocking things you're already familiar with.
Yeah,
and it feels like a foregone conclusion of like, I'm going to get air hike. I'm going to get like a couple of other skills that I've used before in the past. And there's not a ton of like, ooh, that's a super cool idea. Like, Dante has his chainsaw, but I know how to do a stinger. I know how to do like some of these fundamental moves that have defined Devil May Cry, but I don't feel like I'm sort of like the moveset doesn't feel like largely expanded.
Right.
So if you compare it to something like DMC4, which also had a character swap, but not every other mission. It was like you start as Nero, you play about half the game as Nero, and then Dante comes in. And you have to do a similar thing in that game where it's like you're rebuying skills, but then you're Dante for most of the second half of the game again. So it's like you get that sense of like depth and mastery as you continue spending time with characters. And the way this one works is because it sort of bounces you around among 3 different characters. By the end of the game, I felt like I'd only sort of gotten halfway good with 3 of them.
Totally.
Rather than really good with 1 or 2.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's like one of the things about Devil May Cry games is that they get, you find that depth in multiple playthroughs, but I feel like this game more than other games sort of assumes already that you know that and that you're going to go back to this level, play it on hard, try to get higher ranks. But I feel like that first playthrough suffers for it for like sort of not sort of immersing you in one character too much. And then also I feel like as a whole, this game, it feels easier than past ones for a couple of reasons. For one, like you are getting way more health pickups. There's no health items anymore. But basically after every fight, you can expect to like more or less be healed up quite a bit, like if not completely between fights. And so there's not as much health management of like, okay, well, I really botched this encounter. I need to perform. I need to like step it up. Otherwise I'm going to lose in this level. Whereas this doesn't feel like that's the case until very like pretty much near the end, if at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kyle Hilliard, Joe described this series' story as dumb.
Yeah.
How is Devil May Cry 5's story so far?
It's dumb.
Okay. Do you think
but
fans
that's
would be
okay.
angry about that? Would they be like, hey, this isn't dumb? Or does everyone just agree this is dumb?
Good question. Like the thing about Devil May Cry is that it's like way over the top, which is like super fun, and I love it. And that's what's dumb about it to me is like you saw the opening cutscene for the game where you're like leaping out of a car in slow motion, and like I won't spoil what it is, but Dante's 4th weapon, like the introductory cutscene that where you get it, which is like a common thing in Devil May Cry. Like in 3, you unlocked a guitar weapon and he does like a crazy guitar solo.
Yeah.
There's like something very similar to that in 5 that I was just like, what the hell? It like had me laughing. And I like that aspect of Devil May Cry. It's like, just go for it. Just be absurd, be over the top, be ridiculous. Right. And it definitely does that. But as far as like the sort of summary of the plot, it is very just like ho-hum and like dumb and like there's demons and you gotta kill them.
Dumb.
There's a lot of emphasis on like individual moments being pretty cool. Like I think pretty much like Nico's like the standout character I think here because like she's very different.
She's
from,
the one who smokes in that slow motion thing. Okay.
Like she's a really
very
good
sassy
character.
Southern lady.
Right, but she like as far as her like contribution to the overall plot, she's the person making weapons. Right.
Sure.
And so like Trish and Lady are in, and they have some interesting moments, but like for the most part,
No, they don't.
Like they have
you can cut them out of the game completely, and it would not hurt it.
There's one early on that I like, but like,
I feel like
but
Trish
I
and
do-
Lady,
yeah.
they are in the game only for the inevitable special edition. So when they add Trish and Lady in as playable characters, they can be like, they were here all along.
I would agree that you could remove them from the story entirely, and you'd be fine. Like,
I don't know. V tells Trish a secret that one time. Who would hear it if she wasn't there?
All right.
yeah, but there is a lot of like, here's a cool individual moment that by itself is like, okay, that was cool.
Yeah.
But like, as far as like Kyle said, plot summary, there's not a whole lot here.
I had a weird moment on Monday where Kyle was playing a game at his desk, and I walked up and I said, "What is this?" I had no idea. I was like, "Oh, this is Devil May Cry 5," because you were looking at the weird live action cutscenes.
Yeah.
Which blows my mind what Capcom did, and they actually spent money on this. It's awesome. Do you want to explain what it is?
So in the deluxe edition of the game, I don't know if maybe it'll come later. Who knows if you can buy it separately or something. But in the deluxe edition of the game, there's a setting after you beat Mission 2 where you can turn on live action cutscenes. And what happens is when you arrive at the major cutscenes in the game, it cuts to like pre-viz motion capture room. Not even like they're not dressed in mocap stuff. It's just like they're doing cosplay and acting out the cutscenes.
But it's every cutscene shot for shot, basically.
Yeah, every major cutscene of the game made this way. They incorporate action figures and low rent like green screen and cardboard cars. And
Leo
stuff like
correctly
that.
compared it to everyone's film that they have on the tip of their tongue, Be Kind Rewind.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
And, like,
I mean,
tweeting
honestly,
these movies,
it's
yeah.
basically if you can watch Devil May Cry cutscenes with Mos Def and Jack Black making the cutscenes if you want.
It's so insane. We have a
it's cool.
standalone video on YouTube. If you
I
wanna
love,
see
and
it.
that's like that dumb aspect of Devil May Cry that fits. That totally fits for that absurdity
All right,
of that game
sure.
to me. And yeah, I really like it.
But I think also with that absurdity, it skirts close to like like Suriel said, like it skirts close to just some genuine cool stuff sometimes. So it's not it's not always just like, it's not cool in the like, I don't know, heavy or significant sense.
Yeah, there's no moments where you're like
No.
emotionally
I really care
invested.
about this
really.
No,
Yeah.
but it's cool in the same way that you're watching a superhero movie and you're like, oh wow, it was really awesome when those two characters fought.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
like there is stuff like that in this game.
There's still just an enormous reliance on like the exchanges between characters and the boss being like, I'm a big bad boss, I'm taking this seriously, and Dante being like, I'm gonna make a nice little quip about how you're dumb or whatever your like form is, like, oh, they need to let you out, dog, or some weird thing.
boy.
And that's like most of the dialogue for a lot of like the bosses, which are like the center point of a lot of these levels.
Yeah.
Here's a good line that I wrote down
Ooh,
from
please.
V's Griffin, who is basically Iago from Aladdin.
Could you please read it? No, actually, don't do that.
You walked into like you're heading into a boss fight, and the bird in the cutscene said, "I got your back because dying is whack."
All right.
Cool.
Can't win them all.
Does Dante seem like less cool to you guys in this one? Like just generally, I feel like because everyone around him is younger, like he's got the Trish and Lady and Nero and V and Nico. They're all like younger than him. He feels like more like a dad in this one. Like it seems like his
like a dad who never
one-liners.
grew up.
I think
his one-liners feel like dad jokes to me now in a weird way.
I think that's a very deliberate thing, and I actually like it because
too.
Like what you definitely have in this game, and I don't want to spoil any of the sort of like later game stuff, but there's definitely a sense of Nero sort of being the younger generation of Devil Hunter who's got the sort of like quippy dumb stuff that like Dante would be saying in DMC3. Mm-hmm. And Dante being more of the serious, like he's the one who really has to tackle the big problems. You know,
Yeah.
so like when the fights get, I think Dante is my favorite character to play in this. I think is like his skill set is like the most familiar, but also
The most fun to use.
Yeah, he's just the most fun to me, and I'm glad that he's the one who's sort of ultimately tackling the like big bad guys.
yeah. And Nero's just like, I want to participate.
Yeah,
Dante's
except
like, don't worry about it."
Nero is super awesome. It's that sort of thing where it's like, okay, well, Iron Man and Captain America are doing something, but then sometimes you just need Hulk to go in there. And
You need
take
Hulk
care
and
of
Thor
it.
to basically take care of
Exactly.
the
Yeah, Dante-
big
yeah.
existential.
Dante
threat.
basically gives Nero a controller that's not plugged in, and he's like, "Yeah, you can help."
Surprise, Joe. We have a new show within the Game Informer show.
Uh-oh.
I call it the Surprise Rank That Series game.
Oh,
Here we go.
okay.
Let's rank them. All Devil May Cry.
Okay, so here's the problem with this. there are special editions that are different than the normal versions, and I don't want to rank
Let's
them
go
separately.
normal version.
1, 2, 3, 4 Ninja Theory. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5
Yes.
Ninja Theory.
Yes, absolutely. Don't confuse everybody.
No, you can't do it this way.
This is not the way the surprise round is played.
You can't do it this way because if you discount special editions, then Virgil just is not a playable character in any of these games.
Did people play the special editions more than the base games?
I mean,
I think
Just include the best version of
okay, well,
3.
yeah.
I'll accept if you want to include them as separate games.
Okay,
So you're multiplying your list by
here's my ranking.
astronomical
Here's my
amounts.
ranking.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to do it my way.
Cool.
I think Devil May Cry 3 Special Edition is the best one.
Okay.
It's hard for me to choose between DMC 5 and 4 Special Edition. I think I'd lean a little towards 4. I'm going to call that one a tie.
No. Oh. Ties.
You're bad at this.
Shut
you
up.
can't
Sucks.
do this.
No.
Then
no ties. No ties.
Then DMC 1, then Ninja Theory, then DMC 2.
Wow.
Ninja Theory is way
I
too
would-
No,
low.
no. Well, I like it, but like, I like the Ninja Theory one. I think the worst DMC. Well, okay, the worst DMC game is a bad game, DMC 2.
yeah,
But like
everyone says that.
after that, I think they're all really good games.
I would go 3, Ninja Theory, 5, 4, 1, 2.
There's one more thing that I wanted to say
Yeah.
about it quick before we move on.
Sure.
Sorry, and that's like I emphasized it in my review too, but. We talked a little, like Suriel had mentioned a little about that first playthrough being a little easy or not quite pushing you, and I said the same thing about like by the end of that first playthrough feeling like you're only about half as good as you could be.
Yeah.
That depth is there for the fans who are persistent about seeing it. So it's like I think it's mainly a diminished experience for the people who just want to play it once. And then put it down.
Right.
But if you're the kind of person who's going to play through all of the difficulty levels anyway, I mean, like I'm at the end of the Son of Sparta mode, like the next one up, and like partway through that mode is when the game starts to feel like more classic DMC to me, where it's like really pushing you to practice your technique, to use, to really like crowd control and manage encounters in
Not just
different
use
ways.
Stinger
and
over
stuff.
and over again.
Yeah, exactly. So it's there for the people who want it and who are going to, like play the game that much. But the game itself doesn't dangle rewards in front of you the way that maybe some other, like a game like Bayonetta has a very clear kind of post-game progression. Like you clear Bayonetta once, but there are all these accessories that give you new abilities and like have different gameplay effects. So you want to keep playing, keep redoing missions, keep getting more effects so you can like keep climbing the ladder afterwards. In DMC, it's really just the satisfaction of knowing that you're getting better, that you're getting higher ranks, you're finishing higher difficulties. And then like the pot of gold way at the end of that rainbow is the like infinite Devil Trigger skins and stuff like
And
that. But
one quick thing to mention that we forgot was that Nero has a new arm system, which I think I like it quite a bit in that it allows you to it fleshes out Nero more. It sort of puts him on like closer on par with Dante in terms of having sort of this variety of techniques. But I wish you could switch between those manually instead of having to wait until one of them is destroyed to use the next one. That's like a big impediment in that it makes it feel like I can't sort of extend my combos the way I'd want. I'm stuck with one until it breaks. It sucks.
Gotcha. I just learned this thing was made in the RE engine, which is crazy. Like the same engine as like Resident Evil 7 and
It
Resident
looks
Evil
really
2.
nice.
It
looks
does,
good.
really?
Yeah.
Okay.
That RE engine is really good at making like gross yellow pustules on bad guys.
Oh, it's a
and
gross
stuff.
game?
It's a gross game, yeah. But
interesting.
that surprised me too. When the RE engine came up, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think the visual style works really well for it
totally.
too. Like for the characters, environments, enemies, like it's a little more realistic, but
It looks great.
it looks good.
It's a good looking game.
Speaking of gross pustules, Joe, have you checked out Left Alive yet?
No, I haven't gotten a chance.
I
yet.
cannot wait for you to check this game out.
Have you been
Joe.
playing it?
I started it last night. So this is basically Square's Metal Gear Solid. Yoji Shinkawa, the artist from Metal Gear Solid, made all the art, especially the box art. Like, I could see walking through a store, seeing this game, being like, is this related to Metal Gear? Buying it. As it starts up, be like, this feels pretty Metal Gear. And then a certain sensation might hit you that, hey, this is not actually Metal Gear.
Is that,
But
I
like
think
even like
Shinkawa is involved in the actual development too.
Yeah, it did like a lot of the designs within the game.
Okay.
I believe. Yeah, but I literally could not get past the starting area. It's like, there's no kick in the nards like a good
Like
crappy stealth game. It is
like difficulty or just like not interested?
maybe no difficulty. I
okay.
died like 7 times. Like nope, left alive. I want to come back. I
It's
want
a
to come
stealth
back.
game? I thought it was a
Well,
shooter.
it's a little all over. It's a survival game, is how they pitch it.
Oh, yuck.
So there's some stealthing involved. It's the type of game where like early on they teach you you're gonna have some empty cans you need to throw to like distract the guards.
Nope.
While
Nope.
the giant mechs, because the crazy thing is that this is in the front mission universe. So I forgot this, but the Wanzers, as they call them, the giant mechs are also like looking at you in the starting area, and it's just a nightmare. Just getting shot over and over and over again.
Well, you know, Surreal's second most played game of 2018 was Metal
Oh.
Gear Survive, so I think he might.
Oh, yeah. You might have to
Why
tackle
you
that
gotta throw that in my
review.
face now?
That's what you get for being on the
Metal
review.
Gear experience and survival game experience.
And bad.
Ooh, I don't know if it's bad yet.
That's true,
I
that's
haven't
true.
played enough. Seems like it might be bad, but I don't know that for sure. I want to keep playing it just because it's one of those another examples of just what are you doing, Square? Like just when you think you can predict what this publisher is doing, like Quiet Man last year and now quiet release of this game this year, like no one has talked about Left Alive. I feel like. Have you seen any interviews about it? Has Square been pushing it at all?
They didn't send us review code until the day it came
Yeah.
out, which is always a great sign.
Yeah, so
Money went into this thing. Like they spent a pretty penny on this thing.
left to die.
Left Alive, Left to Die. Real quick, let's see. Dead or Alive 6?
Yeah, I reviewed
Chill.
it.
You reviewed it? What'd you give that one?
675.
What happened?
The fighting is actually really good. I like it in that I don't like all the changes they made, like the counter hit system the critical hit system they introduced in 5 kind of means that you can get out of combos sort of more easily if you're on the receiving end. But more importantly, I think the things that suck about this game are that the story mode is like maybe the worst I've seen in a long time. I haven't played Jump Force, to be fair.
Okay. Just in a fighting game, you mean?
Right. Even for like fighting game standards, this is like terrible because it is split up across several timelines. There's like a main timeline and there's several character timelines.
If you're a video game and your story involves many timelines and jumping around them,
Yeah, there's like a
stop
dozen
it.
timelines.
Oh, like Devil May Cry 5.
The
Stop
thing
it.
is, some of them aren't even relevant. Some of them are just like, some of them are just literally like, here's what's up with this character. Bye. All right, that's this character
Hope
story.
you liked my chapter.
And it'll be like 3 scenes. And basically, you'll go into a scene. It's like 15 seconds. Like, hey, I'm trying to master this fighting style. I'm gonna fight a guy, and then the fight is longer than the cutscene. And there's a significant loading screen between each of these basically differences. And then there'll be a cutscene at the end. And then the second scene is like, I'm still trying to master this. And then the third scene, which is his conclusion, is like, he's finally mastered this fighting style. When did that happen? I have
Oh my
no
God.
idea when he finally got to the
my
point where he
God.
mastered this fighting style. And so like, and the plot is like the thing that you get at the end is just like, yeah, there's like I could maybe summarize it in like a minute what happens. It's just like there's so many like things that happen that have no sort of connecting tissue back to the main storyline, and it's really bad.
Yeah.
The other
Chrono
thing,
Trigger, Chrono Cross, Radiant, and Historia. The only 3 games that have done multiple timelines well. Right into podcast@GameInformer.com.
your
Prove me
favorite
wrong.
timelines.
Yeah.
Then I think this is maybe like the most crucial thing is that right now there is no way to invite a friend to a match, and the online mode.
Surely I didn't hear you correctly.
Like there is the only way you can play this game online right now is to go into ranked and fight random people. Like that is you fight them a maximum of 2 times and that's it. Then you look for another opponent. The lobbies
What
are
is
coming
happening?
in later this month, basically.
Insane.
That sucks.
Yeah.
Big time. Like that's terrible. Like I cannot believe that they actually released this game this way. It is abhorrent. Like I cannot believe they did this. Because like I think the fighting stuff is really cool because like they did a good job of like refining it and improving it in a way that I was like ready to like be into this game, and then that online is just so bad. And there is a really good tutorial, I think, as a counterpoint. Like it teaches you sort of
For how to turn the game off?
yeah, you power off the button. Yeah. So like it's pretty long. It's extensive. It teaches you basically every mechanic and sort of like intrinsically that teaches you like how and when you'd want to use it, because there's a lot of these mechanics are sort of like some mechanics just are straight up answers to other mechanics, right? And so by learning them, you learn, okay, when this person is doing this, this is what I should be doing. And there's a lot of terminology, but there's also a mission mode that I think like they say, hey, do 3 expert holds. I don't know what an expert hold is. Like you can press a button, it'll show you how to do an expert hold. That stuff is really smart. So if you just want to like learn Dead or, if you've been looking to learn Dead or Alive and to the
I wanna
exclusion
meet
of
you.
right, to the exclusion of other fighting games, this is pretty nice. But
Okay.
for the most part, like this is just not something that like this is not them on their best foot forward. And it
For,
sucks.
for the audio listeners, that's Joe Juba surprisingly being a dick by making snoring sounds. On a lighter note, you also wrote a ton about Mortal Kombat 11 for the site,
Yeah,
right?
so we got to see a more updated build
Okay.
of Mortal Kombat 11. which
Is there
had a
anything
couple-
left to say about Mortal Kombat 11 that we don't know?
I mean, a lot of it is just like specific details. So I got to play Cassie Cage, who's like among my favorite characters in that series.
Okay.
They
And it's not Ashley Birch anymore, right?
No, it's Erica Lindbeck, who you might know from playing Futaba in Persona 5.
Oh, sure. Of course, yeah.
Everyone's favorite
Yep.
game that everyone's finished. So she's the voice actor. She sounds a little younger, which is kind of weird, considering this takes place later. But it was one of those things where like I saw a bunch of changes that she seems like she seems like a very different character, especially with some of the variations. Like she has a new drone that you can sort of command manually and sort of
Oh, weird.
she takes out her phone and you basically start controlling the drone instead of her, and she can like drop bombs and fire lasers from that drone. But it
Why
leaves
don't
her
people just
vulnerable.
beat the crap out of her while she's standing there on her
That's
phone?
that's sort of the risk you're taking, is that you have to be very careful with when you use the drone.
When can you use it? Like, you can't
didn't
run
find,
away
I didn't
enough.
find like a good strategy to work with that drone. Okay. So like
This character is disastrous just on the concept level.
Right, but that's the thing. I think sort of having that experience, I think fleshed out like the custom variation system is going to be crucial to this game because like I was able to sort of change enough of her skills that she played like a version that I was more into.
Okay.
With like a hop and like a sort of a diagonal jump and like a bubble that deals damage over time. So I think a lot of that stuff like is really interesting. I also wrote a thing about the story mode, which seems like what we've come to expect from NetherRealm.
Solid and weird.
Yeah.
Okay.
Quick question. Do you think you'll be able to play with friends online in Mortal Kombat 11 when it comes out?
It's hard to know anymore, right? But I hope so.
Just come out and say Another Realm. I can't believe they're dodging that hard-hitting question. Yeah. Hey, fun times with games, everybody. Do you guys want to clap out?
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Whoa!
Jeff
We're here.
Markiafava, boys are back in town. Here we go.
Yes.
We have Jeff Cork and Jeff Markiafava,
Hey.
a crew that has not seen each other since last year when we went on the Days Gone cover story trip.
It's true.
Was that last year? Feels like a
It
lifetime
was
ago.
last year. It was the June issue. So.
Oh, okay. As everybody remembers. So, since then, Days Gone has been a little bit quiet. I was very happy with the coverage we pumped out all that while ago. We had like the first hour of the game. We had an episode of New Gameplay of the Day. We
Yep.
tried to beat the Horde, despite the frame rate trying to fight back.
Yep.
And they've released a couple trailers since then about like exploring the world. There's a story
Yeah.
trailer recently.
They had that press release about the game being delayed.
That was exciting. Yeah, there's no doubt
people
about
were into that.
Yeah. Then we got to tweet out our joke again from the rapid fire about, did you ever consider calling it, what was the joke?
State of delay.
State of delay. Anyways, Jeff Cork, what did you get to see from this game recently?
I got to see the opening hour again,
Interesting.
and then they kind of skipped us ahead in the demo, and then it was about 4 hours in the open world.
This is pretty insidery, but I think it's interesting.
Yes.
First hour,
Yes.
you had a hot take.
Here I'll hype up something on GameInformer.com. I have a little feature about this as well, but I'll kind of give you the high level about it. The opening has changed, I would say, fairly dramatically from what we saw originally.
Which is crazy because you can see the entire opening hour
Yeah.
on our YouTube channel or GameInformer.com if you want, and like it seemed pretty much done. So that they would
Yeah.
take something done and then while they're, I don't know.
I think tweak it around, and ultimately, I think it makes the intro a lot better.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed what I played before, but I understand, like, I have a tendency, I like slow stories that kind of take their time to, like, for you to kind of absorb yourself in there and everything. And that was probably not what they were going for. They wanted it to be action oriented and people to have fun. So they've kind of tightened it up a little bit. They've added, like, one section in particular, like, and you can see video of this on the site. We kind of broke this clip out where the main character and his buddy Boozer, not Boomer, which is one of my greatest regrets.
Hang on. So this is when we, throughout that entire month of coverage, when we talked about his best friend Boozer, we called him Boomer because we had just played Far Cry 5.
I die a little inside every time I think about that.
Did we do it more than once?
Oh yeah,
Yes.
just we were very consistent about it.
Because we
Defense.
recorded
That's good.
all those videos in the
At
same
once.
day. Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. I heard you did a little joke about that.
I may have gone. I went to a Mall of America and had an airbrush artist make a shirt that said Boozer. And really? I should have worn it today, but
Yeah, and then you wore it at the event?
I did.
Did you like slowly unzip your jacket? in
Well,
front of
they
them?
made a reference, like they made a joke about it, John Garver to Jeff Ross, and then I went.
When you really revealed your custom shirt to
Well, that was the plan. I realized I was not wearing a shirt at all, and it was just hair, just hair.
That's hilarious. Did they
They
appreciate
thought it was funny.
Did you feel like an then having to wear a shirt that said Boozer the rest of the time?
No, my zippers typically go back up, so there you go.
All right, sorry.
So anyway, back
Boozer.
to the section with Boozer and Deacon St. John.
Yeah.
Where in the original demo we saw, like, for instance, there's like a roadblock that is blocking the road, which is, it's putting in the work.
We got it.
And Deacon and Boozer push it out of the way, and it's kind of tutorializing how to push things out of the way, which is very exciting. But nothing happens after that. It's kind of like the promise of an action sequence, but nothing happens. And now what they've introduced, you get jumped by some bad dudes, and then there's like a combat tutorial and everything.
just
it's
pushing
little things
more
like
combat
that,
in
and then
there.
also kind of we went into it, and I think that ultimately makes it a lot stronger. Is they've gotten rid of that element of choice that they had originally, where like at certain points they actually would kind of go, where it's like, do you want to do this kill shot? Do you want
Right.
to take Boozer's shotgun?
And David Cage's face actually transparently just fades in on the screen, which I didn't understand.
It was like this.
Yeah, he's thinking hard. Make the call.
Make the call. And they said, when I asked about it later, they were like, well, we didn't find a way to effectively communicate what the outcomes were, and it was just kind of confusing, and it was something they really liked, but they cut it out and they realized it just made stuff stronger. And I think that watching those interactions without pausing, what will you do? Will you press square or triangle, and you're like, it really did kind of break the flow up a little bit.
And it's also, I think it just kind of implies a different type of game.
Exactly.
Yeah. Another thing I remember during the cover story trip that they were debating a lot was having numbers pop off the enemies. Mm-hmm. Is that still in the build?
I don't think I saw the numbers popping off on it.
Really? They removed it.
I don't recall. Honestly, that wasn't something I was looking for, but
Okay.
yeah, it didn't. I don't think that happened.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I could be wrong, but yeah.
And overall, from all the stuff you played, did your perspective change? Because I was surprised. It seems like the internet, maybe overall, is kind of in a best case scenario, cautiously optimistic about Days Gone. Of like, I don't think it's going to rock our worlds, but it seems like a solid PlayStation 4 exclusive. From the cover story trip, I was amazed how hot the two of you were on. Of like, yeah, I'm totally on board for this type of game.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah,
Am I
absolutely.
misstating your position? After playing for 5 hours, how's your perspective changed?
Oh, I'm like even more so. I think that
Really?
that additional time, whether or not that's what it was used for, I think there's just a level of polish that I think needed to be done still even when we saw it. So I think the Freakers, for instance, look a lot better. Their animations seem a little creepier. It seems like they have a better perception of you. There were some and also some kill animations when you kill them. The ragdolls acted kind of goofy, and
Yeah, of
you're
course,
like, that's video games. But I didn't see a lot of that stuff. I think visually it's an amazing looking game.
Really? And frame rate
it's
seem
gorgeous.
much more solid now?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
I only interacted with one Freaker Horde, and they were very generous with giving us a nice bounty of weapons to use, and we were able to be successful. And I died a couple times. I was like, nope, this is just not meant to be.
Oh, no.
Right.
I'm so sorry.
I know.
It was a rough gig.
Yeah.
So anything surprising in the open world?
In the open world, I think I was surprised at how well everything kind of works together. If you recall the fast travel, that's something you have to unlock by kind of clearing out those routes of infestations and nests and everything.
Yeah.
Which I was kind of focused more on seeing the story and doing a little bit of exploration, things like that. So I did not unlock fast travel, but even then, I just enjoyed rolling around in that world on the motorcycle. That it was a lot of fun. I should also make it clear, I'm also a person, I never used fast travel in Red Dead Redemption 2.
Right.
I just like that. I mean, and unlike your horse, you have to manually control the motorcycle. You can't, it's not like Kit in Knight Rider where you just say, okay, take me to Hot Springs.
Yeah. Did some of your love for State of Decay come through about just maintaining the vehicle, all that stuff?
Yeah, it's not as fussy as I was kind of concerned about.
Yeah.
There were times when the motorcycle did break down, but I had scrap to repair it. And I did, in one time, I was really pushing my luck with how much fuel I had. And I literally coasted into a settlement as they were opening the gates as it hit 0. So I was like, okay, I was really pushing it. But yeah, I think fuel and scrap is plentiful enough where as long as you're like paying attention, it shouldn't be that big of an issue.
Yeah. Cork, do you ever get the feeling that like someone's watching us and like eavesdropping on our conversation?
What is this?
This weird creeper
Jeff,
over there?
what questions do you have about Days Gone?
Yeah.
You had mentioned in kind of your preview coverage that came out of your recent playing time that they've tightened up the gunplay and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess the thing that I'm most interested in the game from when we saw it was that the game had its own kind of identity and feeling. And is that still the same? Has that changed at all? Kind of it felt more almost survival oriented, and I think I appreciated that they kind of slowed down the gameplay a little bit.
Yeah.
It sounds like they're trying to get you into the action a little faster in at least the opening.
In the opening, for sure.
But the kind of core feeling is still there.
Yeah. I think the biggest goal was they wanted to kind of tutorialize the important stuff so that when they do kick you out into the open world, you don't feel like completely overwhelmed. Because there are a lot of systems in play that you have to worry about. Like you've got the keeping track of the motorcycle, and then just the way that the freakers interact with other like members of their weird infected species, and then human enemies, and then the way that ambush camps can like create a problem for you on the roads and everything. So I think that's what I like about it, though, is I think the world feels very cohesive in a way that is satisfying, and it's hard, but doesn't feel unfair.
Okay. Story.
Yeah.
Feel like your expectations are set? Do you know what this flavor of story is going to be like here?
Yeah, I think they're certainly laying the groundwork. I don't want to I think if you're paying attention to some of the story beats, you can kind of see where things are going.
Yeah, don't spoil anything.
Yeah, but I don't think you're going to get completely blown away, like putting your hands in your head or head in your hands.
What?
Afterwards, just going like, oh no, Deacon, why did you do those things?
But you did say in your preview coverage that he came off as a more likable character.
Yeah, I like him.
And that you wanted to be his best buddy now, right?
All I want to do is think about Deacon St. John.
I like that performance a lot, even from the stuff that we saw. Sam Witwer, who voiced Darth Maul in Solo, everybody. Look out for that one, which is a weird connection. But he has a weird kind of breathy tone, but it almost could say maybe he's overacting it, but he's packing a lot of personality into Deacon, who very easily could have been a very flat read.
They could have completely blown it with that character, because I think the game kind of came out on a off balance when they debuted it with all that the horde footage, which kind of seemed like at first it was like, oh wow, this looks really cool, and then it was like, geez, when is this gonna, you know what I mean? Like to see that for the first beat of the game, and then also just be like, oh, you're playing as a biker guy. I think a lot of people were like, nope, I don't want to be the biker guy. Yeah, also they're called freakers. But I think that I think that the consensus seems to be building, and I would certainly be on board with this, where this game I think is going to surprise a lot of people that have got negative feelings about it based on what they've seen before. Yeah.
What makes you say that?
I just think it's really fun, and I think it's cool, and I think it's doing a lot of interesting stuff.
That's great to hear.
Yeah.
I like being optimistic on this show.
Absolutely.
When is it coming out again?
April 26th.
Okay, so send your hate mail, Jeff Cork's wrong, to, let's see, you're off Twitter now, so I guess you can't really do anything.
You can still shout into the void, and that'll make you feel like a big person.
Great.
Go for it.
You have previews up on GameInformer.com to see the specific ways that they've changed the opening and stuff again over there. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Great. You guys want to talk about anything else?
We had fun on the cover trip.
Oh, way back when?
Yeah.
To Bend, Oregon?
It was a good time.
The Bend, Oregon airport is one of my favorite airports in the country at this point. It's just like a small wooden cabin sitting out there.
Yeah.
It's cozy.
It's cozy.
It's charming.
Like everything in Bend. Yeah, absolutely. Did you anything new from the developers? Did you talk to them a fair amount?
I talked to them for a bit, yeah.
Okay.
I got most of it covered there. They did have a remarkably lifelike mannequin of Deacon St. John.
Oh, really?
With skin that was soft. And it had hair plugs and
How did his mouth taste?
Saltier than you might expect.
Great. Wonderful. You guys want to clap out of here?
Yeah, please.
Holy Lord. We got Matt Miller. Hey. We got Leo Vader.
My honor.
My little ape buddies. Here we go. We're talking about Ape Out. Before we get to the good fun, though, real quick.
Yeah.
Let me drag you back to hell.
Oh.
We talked about it a little bit last week, but
Yeah.
you actually had a final verdict for Trials Rising.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And it was a 7.25.
It was.
What's going on there?
Well, I like Trials a lot, and I don't think this is a bad game. But as I offered up as my thoughts in the conclusion of that review, I don't think that
Miller,
you can.
why I love you. I'm sorry to interrupt. I know it's rude, but you say the way you phrase things is so funny. As I offered up my thoughts in the conclusion of that review,
I don't know what to tell you. So I'm just telling you what it was.
Okay, sorry. Yes, you're
in
right.
the conclusion of the review, I talk about it's this is pretty old gameplay. It's fun gameplay.
Yeah.
Like the mechanics of Trials are always fun.
Borderline timeless.
But if that's gonna be the case, you shouldn't change it. But if you don't change it, everything else around it, the wrapping needs to be real damn good.
Yeah.
And it's not.
Okay. Like
the progression stuff is not fun. Like there's this grind that just keeps you locked away from content for too long. The stuff that you're having to do during that time isn't fun. The focus on microtransactions is a real bummer. You just feel like, a lot of the fun customization you could have in the gear crates.
Yeah.
But you don't really.
Yeah.
And so that kind of stuff is what turns people away from your game. And that's too bad because I think they have plans for this kind of ongoing live experience where they're going to grow it over time. But if you have people who come in and play it for 2 hours and then get ticked off because of some of those systems, I don't think you're doing yourselves any favors.
Right. At this point, you've reviewed how many Trials games?
Gosh, I don't know. I mean, between reviews and previews and I've done a lot of coverage over the last many years of Trials games.
What is just the best Trials game?
HD.
It might be HD if only, but that's weird though because I think I'd rather play one of in a lot of ways I think this game has some of the best level design that
But
they've
just
done.
the wrapping sucks.
But yeah, the actual progression stuff is a problem. I think in this case, Trials Rising could be a lot better in a few months if they resolve some of that stuff.
Oh, interesting.
I don't think these are unsolvable problems. In today's day and age of constant patching and things like that. They just need to get rid of some of that grind, get more of those more challenging, fun levels available quicker.
Yeah.
Right? The hard levels are fun, but it takes a long time to get to them.
Okay.
It's like Mario Odyssey, which we also gave a 7.25 if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I forget. Yeah, it's been a long time. Okay, like an ape busting through the glass. Leo Vader's here to talk about Ape Out.
I love it.
Yeah, here we go. This is a little game published by Devolver. I forget the main creator's name.
Gabe Gazzillo.
Gabe
Thank you.
Gazzillo.
Oh my gosh, you guys are so good. Also, art by Bennett Foddy, friend of the show. He was a podcast guest a little while ago.
Yeah, from Getting Over It.
Yeah, and then just right when the game starts up, says, "Hey, audio by Matt Bach." And I was like, I know that name. Where do I know that name? Oh, Harmonix. He was at Harmonix for so long. He was a designer on a Beatles rock band and stuff. So, and that explains it so much. I love Ape Out.
Oh my god, it's so good.
I beat it last night, and it's so rare to just have a game come completely out of the blue in my world and then just pummel you with style and fun gameplay.
They should have called this game the Bad Day game. That's what I think.
Yeah.
It's like the game to play when your boss yells at you and your girlfriend's pissed off at you and you get a ticket from the cops for going too fast and you get home, you turn on Ape Out and you play this.
And you ape the frick out.
Yes, you ape the frick out and it's super fun.
Is there a quiet boiling rage happening underneath your eloquent tongue, Miller?
all the time.
Oh my God.
It's so cathartic, right? Like you're so
empowered,
Silverbacky.
and you feel like it does such a great job in such a strange way of imbuing this sense of anger and frustration, like rightful frustration.
Yes.
Through the sound and the music and the motion and the button presses, like everything kind of comes together to give you this sense of like, I am an ape that has been unlawfully imprisoned and experimented on. And these guys deserve everything they have coming to them.
And they have no idea what's about to hit them.
Yeah.
I'm confused about the chronology of all the different chapters. I don't know what the overall story
Are you the same ape?
It's more confusing than you think. I'm sure people who have two brain cells rubbed together have figured it out much quicker than I have. But even after finishing, I'm like, I don't quite understand how this ape flow works.
I would believe it's the same ape, a powerful enough ape to get to all of these different situations and survive.
That could be. So what this is basically, the easy pitch is, imagine Hotline Miami. You remember that kind of like top-down, hey, shoot 'em
Fast
up.
movement,
Yeah.
quick reactions.
Yeah, forget about it. By the way, I feel like Hotline Miami, that game has had more of an impact on the industry than people would care to admit. There's
I
been a
think it's
lot
an
of
important
Hotline
game.
Miami type
Yeah,
games.
Definitely.
So it's that top-down view, except you're just this angry ape that
We're
can-
putting the anger on him.
That's true. Maybe he's cool. But you're grabbing human beings.
You'd be pissed off.
It's true. Using them as human shields, throwing them, and I don't like gore in games. But there's something so satisfying
Completely
about
agree.
throwing these people against a wall or against each other, and they just explode in blood. It's just
It's interesting because like your point's well taken. There is something about like if this was a dude who was going through and he was like a conscious, sentient person who was just going around like, I'm going to kill everybody.
Yeah.
Like it would feel kind of wrong.
Yeah.
But here it's very clear. The opening level, you're in a cage. All your buddies have been murdered by getting experimented on, right? You see them in their cages. And, you feel sort of justified. Like, I am an animal and I'm getting the hell out of here.
I'm aping out.
I am aping out. And so then you rush out. And so there's a sensation of justifiable violence to it where you don't necessarily feel too bad about what you're doing.
Yes. And I think just gameplay-wise, I think it's so brilliant because a lot of the enemies have guns, right? And so it's just like the timing of how fast can I get to this guy before he shoots me is so beautifully timed where it always feels fair. It's like, I could have dodged that. I could have ran some other way, hid around this wall for a second. And also just going throughout the entire game, they escalate enemies more and more, different types of guns and stuff. And they're so clearly recognizable of like, okay, now you have the flamethrower guy, now you have the machine gun guy. It's just like this beautiful boiled down design that's just so much fun to beat through.
Yeah.
And if we haven't talked about it, the soundtrack, it's these jazz drums that flow and crash with the kills you're doing.
Yes.
And across the different albums, they're structured like the four
that's how the
different
levels are
vignette worlds.
focused, right?
Right.
Is that there are these individual albums and each one has its own vibe.
Right, yeah. There's some stomp action in the second one. The fourth one has like metallic clanging. And it always fits perfectly. It gives it the feel, even though it's a straight up action game, it feels like a rhythm game. The way that you're slamming people and grabbing people and learning the timing of their guns.
Yeah.
You're getting the feel for the rhythm of how combat goes.
But
the
it's like
timing of
freeform
everything.
rhythm, like
Exactly.
because it's like freeform jazz.
It's like
that
a
you're
jazz
listening to.
rhythm action game.
Yeah, it reminded me a bit of like Super Hot. Like I played a little bit of Hotline Miami, but just even that feeling of just like, okay, it's not quite as puzzly, obviously, as Super Hot was, but I'm just go through this level. I'm going to try and figure out the beats. I'm going to die probably again and again and again. It kind of, strange enough, has filled that Trials Rising slot where I stopped playing Trials Rising. It's like, I just want to keep playing Ape Out. I'll just run through these scenarios because just trying to navigate these is so much fun.
Once you beat them all, you get the arcade mode.
Yeah.
And when you first knock someone out, instead of saying a game by Gabe Gazzillo, it says plus 10 points. And then I was having trouble tracking the points after that. And I realized after that, it's written in the blood. There's an empty spot in the blood splatters of the corpses that shows the number of points you have. It's so stylish.
Yeah, look up videos of this game if you've never seen it, because in addition to the soundtrack, just the overall aesthetic, it's kind of, oh my God, it's kind of textured. I don't even know how you describe it.
Construction paper sometimes looking?
Construction paper.
Like stop motion?
Minimalist colors. Then the colors will shift every once in a while as you go through the story.
There's cool ways.
Yeah, I mean, like we talked a little bit about the violence inherent to the game. I think that the stylistic presentation of the art helps alleviate anything that you'd feel like, oh, this is like a little too much.
Yeah.
Because it is so like backed away from that, and it's all these sort of primary colors, and yeah, you can tell that you're tearing these guys apart, but it's not overly graphic in that sense.
Even though you can slam them into the wall and their limbs explode off, and you grab their legs and throw them at another guy. It doesn't bother me.
Right? And I think that's in part because of the art style that they've gone with. Like, I think if it was more realistic looking, it might be... it might feel like it was like too much and kind of gory and gross. but it doesn't feel that way.
Right. And now it's just you get the silly idea of a ape using somebody as a human shield and just slowly walking into their enemies as they're shooting into it.
Yeah.
So absurd.
And they're also really good at keeping up the pace of it. So you never really get tired of scenarios. It moves you along fast enough. Maybe if you're stuck on one part, you'll get tired of it. But there's a lot of variety that I didn't expect throughout the whole about 2 hours to beat it.
It took me like 4 hours. Maybe the Steam timer was different.
Leo's
but
way
maybe
better.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I really had a tough time with a couple of those levels. Yeah,
They do get challenging, but again, I think your point's well taken, Leo. There's immaculate pacing at play in this game where you're just constantly, just when you kind of have wrapped your head around like, okay, this is how this is handled. Oh, they've turned the lights off.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And like that's this new thing that you have to kind of deal with. Oh, now there's grenade guys.
And
right?
it makes it feel like an album. It's paced where the levels are the tracks on an album, and it flips from side A to side B, and it makes me really eager to replay these months down the line and just enjoy the game again.
Also, just no collectibles, no BS. Just hey,
very
get to
pure.
the exit,
Yeah.
and it's like to the point of, can I just speed run this? Can I just run right at that exit? It never quite works out.
Yeah, sometimes it's the right strategy. You've still got to be tactical about like taking cover behind walls, waiting for them to shoot, and then bursting out and grabbing somebody.
Yeah.
But there's elements where you don't want to kill everybody every time.
For sure. It's $15 on Switch and PC right now. It seems like a great Switch game. I played on PC, but
like I said, even if you didn't like totally play it for hours at a stretch, having this game on tap for just that right mood when you need to kind of cool off and like
all right.
and like, you know, just embrace the carnage for a little bit and then go back to the real life. I think you'd be in good shape.
Yeah, absolutely.
Am I scaring you right now, Ben?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
I saw you playing it at your desk, and it was kind of like
blood running from his hands because he's
barely contained rage.
Yeah. Have you tried break-in mode at all?
Yes.
Very cool. It's instead of the bunch of short levels, it's one really long one, and you try to get your best
cool.
time. That is very worthwhile.
Yeah.
I stayed up way later than I intended to last night beating that,
great.
and it was so satisfying.
Oh, great. Fair to say, folks, we're bananas over this game.
No monkey business here.
Grape ape.
Magilla gorilla.
Who's your favorite fictional monkey, Miller?
Caesar?
Oh, that's like a legit answer because Caesar's like a great character.
I'm sorry.
very
I'm
Miller
sorry.
answer.
I thought we were actually answering your question.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Anyways, JV reviewed it. He gave it an 8.25, but he was out of the office, so he couldn't be here for this discussion. He's out of the office actually trying to shoot a gorilla, which I wish him the best of luck. For now, do you guys want to move on to emails?
Sure.
Great. And welcome back to the Informer Show. We have the dream team here. We have Kyle Hilliard. Hey. We have Ben Reeves.
Now we're having fun.
The staples of podcast at GameInformer.com email section. And lo and behold, who do we have sitting between them? The mysterious little silkworm himself from James and the Giant Peach, Matthew Cotto.
How's it going? We got him, everybody.
We got him. He tried to get away. Not today, buddy.
Silkworm.
Yes.
Okay.
It's my favorite thing about James the Giant Peach, the idea that I think it's the silkworm, where they're on the peach for
I don't think so.
They're on the peach for a while, and then it's like, oh yeah, we got a silkworm. Silkworm. You ever met silkworm? And it's just like whenever I think of that thing that's there but isn't quite there, or it's just like, oh, you didn't know this was here the whole time. I always think I think it's the silkworm.
Have I made a mistake in my life if I've never seen that movie?
You should probably read the book. The movie's cool.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
It's director of Coraline.
Henry
Nightmare
Selick.
Before Christmas.
That's it. And thank you to Kyle for bringing the energy in the room down to a
To a Henry Selick level.
Yeah, we got Matthew Cotto here, and I'm so happy you're here, Cotto, because people are into podcasts at GameInformer.com with some killer questions, some thoughts, concerns, words of wisdom, and there's a couple. I know you guys might not be crazy about them, but there's just like some good old school, classic, vanilla game reviewing questions in here, and I'm excited for you to answer these.
Bread and butter questions.
Vanilla.
You don't know how close you are. Speaking of which, how long have you been at Game Informer, Cotto?
Like 20 years, I think.
Jesus Christ.
What do you get for being at a company for 20 years?
It's actually under 20 years, so I guess I'll find out still. Yeah.
Right.
So they're scrambling right now to probably concoct some sort of butter statue or something. I don't know.
A nameplate? Have we done nameplate yet?
Okay, so podcastinginfo.com, send in your email, and then there's a chance we'll read it on the show. And then there's a chance also you will win Email of the Week. We're going to choose your absolute favorite and then onto them on the big board. Which, by the way, we put the last pin last week on Greenland because the person didn't say where they're from. They clarified they're from some godforsaken place just to the northeast of Australia. I forget the name of it, but is now no longer godforsaken. It is God's country.
You're not talking about New Zealand?
No, it's not New Zealand. It's to the northeast. It's some bizarre name.
It's like Coral Country or something.
Yeah, it's the coral reef. I should have mentioned.
Is there a mark on the map? Like, can you see?
No, I had to ballpark it. It's a tiny little island.
That's exciting.
I think, they're a contestant on Survivor or something. I don't know.
The water's covered in island. They just have to stand in a foot of water.
The water's covered in island.
Yeah.
Here we go, everybody. First email here is, hey, Ben and crew. This is Robert from Ogden, Utah. I've been wondering, is Microsoft playing chess while Sony's playing checkers? What I mean by that is Sony seems to be focused on their exclusives, staying on their platform and selling as many consoles as they can, while Microsoft is focused on putting their games on every platform with Play Anywhere, Game Pass on PC, and rumored to be coming to the Switch. They changed their studio name to Xbox Game Studios, so when you're on PC or Switch, you'll know it's just Xbox. Just seems like there's more opportunity to put your games on all those platforms rather than locking it to one. And looking to the future with Project xCloud streaming to phones, tablets, TVs, what do you guys think? Yes.
It's future looking, certainly.
I mean, I think Microsoft's making some great moves, and we're aware of what they're doing. We have no idea what Sony's doing, is what the problem is. And so let's say they're like playing checkers, like they're probably planning something.
Yeah,
they're
Mark Cerny is planning his move in checkers.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, I would say that there's great things about what Microsoft is doing in terms of, the accessibility, for those games and stuff. I would say, though, however, if you look at it from a different perspective, who's got the better first-party studio, lineup? Who has that infrastructure? Something that Microsoft is now trying to do. Could Sony turn around, like you said, Ben? We don't really know exactly what they're doing. Could they turn around and have their own, streaming-only, download-only platform? Yeah, they could. So I think in the long run, Sony's is positioned for its games. Certainly a lot of its brands and franchises, which I think it sort of outstrips what somebody else might be doing in the short term, because those games, those brands, no matter what the console looks like, feels like, or whatever, those brands are going to be what are going to carry Sony forward.
I think I might be on the opposite side. I'm with you. Like I've enjoyed my PlayStation 4 so much this generation, but I feel like Microsoft, if they are being as aggressive as it certainly seems like they are, and the tech works well, and you can stream your Xbox games to absolutely everything, like especially with the studio acquisitions and everything they have under their hood at this point, I feel like it's a smarter game to play long term. And maybe Sony, I don't know, do you guys think that for sure Sony will be using the old Gaikai tech, the PlayStation Now tech, for next gen? Is there a universe where they don't go somewhat into the water on streaming?
I think they will.
Yeah.
I don't think they won't. I think that's the future. I'm not super excited about that future, but I think it's the future.
They were already messing around with it, like with PlayStation Now and whatnot, right?
Well, right.
So yeah, I think they would continue to explore it. I think they're just not being vocal about what they're doing.
Yeah, I think they're both playing chess. Microsoft is just loudly announcing all of their moves, and
because they kind of have to,
right?
Yeah, because they're behind the eight ball. So,
but there's still night and day difference between technically we'll have some streaming capabilities on our next console, and hey, you can play your Xbox games on a Switch. I mean, that is the type of radical thinking that is beyond one chess move. I mean, that is next level stuff that I think is really awesome for Microsoft.
Yeah, they're playing 4D chess. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly.
They're playing 4D chessboards?
Yeah, man, absolutely. So there is even more rumors popping up, the idea that there's going to be the super cheap. Oh wait, I'm confusing it with other ones. So several different rumors. One of them is, in theory, in June, there's going to be a discless version of the Xbox One S, right, for pretty cheap.
Yeah, which has a code name. I think I can't remember the code name.
It was a good code name. I forget what it is.
Discless?
Nathan in the booth, wonderful intern. Do you want to look up what the code name was for that discless Xbox One S?
Should we all guess what it is real quick?
Something like that. Yeah. Anyways, but no, we shouldn't, Reeves. But then anyways, for next generation, right, it's going to be, in theory, sorry for saying in theory, the big beefy equivalent of the Xbox One X. Let's call it the Xbox One X2. And then also the super cheap version that'll just be streaming stuff.
Right.
I don't think it will necessarily be cheap. It'll just be fewer features. I don't think they're necessarily positioning it as hey, this is a really cheap entry level whatever. It almost feels like it's there's going to be the Rolls Royce, and then there's going to be the less than Rolls-Royce. But I don't necessarily think it's going to be, quote, cheap.
Well, how does that work then? If you can just stream these games on your phone or on your Switch, I think this cheap Xbox would need to be dirt cheap, wouldn't it? Like, they could just make it $100? Is that reasonable? Because then what could you do locally on it? Why not just make it a Chromecast thing at that point?
Yeah, I'm just saying as I understand the rumors from probably like 3-4 months ago, that I think that was one of the caveats, even that like it will be less featured and it will be cheaper, but they were
still buying a console.
Yeah, and they were very quick to point out that that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be cheap.
Okay, so don't expect a $20 dongle.
Yes, I would not expect a $20 dongle.
Yeah,
But what if it was?
It could be.
Hey, that's a pretty revolutionary question.
I mean, why don't they just do it?
Yeah, come on, Microsoft, we dare you.
But do we think that PlayStation will also have 2 different versions? The streaming only version or some way to stream their stuff?
I think they'll have some way to stream their stuff.
Just PlayStation TV too?
I think they'll probably hold off on releasing a cheaper, smaller unit.
I'm laughing at the idea of them calling it PlayStation TV 2. Because PlayStation TV was a bust. I did not like that.
What if they called it PlayStation T2?
Oh, the Judgment Day is coming.
Right.
Kato, if you had to gamble on next generation, who's going to win it right now? You've been in the industry for 30 years. By that I mean 20. I don't know why I had to exaggerate for comedic effect.
Yeah.
You know, I think the safe bet is, say, Sony, although historically a lot of these things have flip-flopped.
Right.
You know, the companies have traded positions. But again, going back to the first-party thing that I said, while Microsoft is certainly in the process of building up their studios, I think if Sony can, get certain product out, for the holiday season, revive certain franchises or keep rolling on them, assuming they don't mess up on that, I think it's theirs to lose.
Yeah.
So you're going Sony?
Yes.
Okay. Where's everybody else at? I think I'm going Microsoft.
Yeah. How does Nintendo factor into it? Do they compete? They're playing Twister while everyone else is playing checkers?
They get roped up into Microsoft because you can play Xbox games on your Switch. So yeah, they're sucked into the vortex.
What if it's Google?
Yeah, we'll find out in theory soon. Sorry.
The Xbox.
Xbox. Interesting. Yeah. Okay. Nathan in the booth, what is that code word? Xbox Maverick. That's what it is. Thank you. What do you guys think about this analogy? With the Xbox One having such a weird launch and them trying to be a little bit, I don't know, what. In retrospect, we should go back and look at that launch of the Xbox One because it's so fascinating, but maybe a little bit too progressive, a little bit too radical of a change. Of just like, hey, we're not going to allow used games, all that weird stuff at the launch of last generation. What do you think about this analogy? Do you think that the Xbox One is going to be Microsoft's Wii U, where it's just a weird stepping stone console that's stuck in this like half measure? We're kind of thinking towards the future with what ultimately became the Switch, right? Where the Wii U is like, portable gaming, kind of, sort of. But in terms of just kind of the all digital future.
That's an interesting idea.
Okay. Reeves is still furrowing his brow.
I'm just trying to make sense of your analogy because it's like they were trying to go super far. So you're saying they'll go even further with the next console?
Correct.
And succeed?
And succeed on that front now.
Huh.
Yeah. The same way the portability of the Switch and all that stuff. That's the analogy I'm working on in my head.
All right, maybe.
Look for my opinion on GameInformer.com.
That idea of like early on, which totally got like pushed off the table, of like being able to share digital games with friends for like certain periods of time.
Yes.
I feel like that will come back and people will be excited about it as opposed to being upset about it. Yeah.
Right. It was just too much change at one time, and it was such an easy messaging for Sony just to be like, oh, used games are still cool. The Microsoft had to be like, oh, okay.
It would be kind of nice if you could do something with your digital library, because I have so many like games that I'm like, I'll probably never go back and play that, but it's not like a resource I can mine for anything, right?
Wasn't there
it's not
something
like I can
about
trade that in?
I thought there was something about selling digital games back on some storefront at some point.
Was Steam doing it for a while? I think they were.
Bitcoin, all that stuff, like cryptocurrency ties into that, right?
Does it?
Yeah, because like the idea is like digital objects being individualized to a point where you can trade them. Like that's what cryptocurrency is all about. So the idea is like you would have a digital copy of Devil May Cry 5, but it would be like an individual copy that you could exchange with somebody. It would all be digital, but
they'd have a limited number of digital copies in that.
Yeah, or something like that.
Interesting.
Theoretic scenario.
Speaking of cryptocurrency, Kato, have you ever heard of cryotherapy?
Yeah, I actually have. So if I'm gonna take a stab, at what this is. So that would be like, I think athletes use it. So they go in a chamber. It goes down to about -40, I think. For a minute or something, and then they come out.
That's exactly it. It just reminded me, we have an interview coming up with Glen Schofield from Sledgehammer and Call of Duty fame. And at the end of the interview, I asked him about cryotherapy because he's been tweeting a lot about it. It's insane. The numbers that he shares will blow your effing mind for how long he stays in these
go
different
outside.
Wait, he's doing
You
it?
can go outside and spend a minute outside right now.
We got our own built-in
Is it
cryo
is it like a
chamber.
healing thing to help athletes like?
Apparently.
Yeah, because I think in general, and this is nothing new. Well, pardon me here, very just tangent, but it's nothing new necessarily for sports.
email
but,
section, man.
they'll come. I think it's like when you get into the cold, it shrinks your fibers or whatever.
Shrinks fibers.
Yeah, and then so I think a lot of times after games they'll get into the cold tub a lot now, and this is just the 21st century.
You can
like
find
that
all about it, Kyle,
technology,
by
yeah.
listening to the interview later on in this episode of the Game Informer Show.
It's like that scene in Atomic Blonde where she gets in the tub
Okay.
of ice water.
Yeah.
Just like that.
God, what's your top 3 scenes from Atomic Blonde?
Oh, that one.
Credits.
Here we
End
go.
Credits.
Here we go. Royan from West Java, Indonesia says, hey, with the latest news from Sean Layden commenting on the importance of having multiplayer games and expanding worldwide studios. For example, Rainbow Six Siege's producers joined Guerrilla Games and expanded that studio. And actually, I looked it up. It was the Rainbow Six Siege director actually joined Guerrilla Games. He used to work there, and I guess he came back now. Anyways, they're saying, what do you think PlayStation will do with this multiplayer talent? Are they going to create a new IP or continue their IPs? Basically, they're going to make a tactical game like Rainbow Six Siege. So I guess that's an interesting question. Do you think that those people were hired into Guerrilla Games to make a multiplayer component for Horizon Zero Dawn 2? Or would they be going back to kind of like an older version of Guerrilla, even though they just closed down their remote studio and make something in the Killzone universe again?
Well, how was it? 2 people? Is that what it was?
Yeah, what are these 2 people going to do?
I like a free to play Killzone game, multiplayer, interesting classes.
And honestly, like if Sony is as direct as this would imply, just looking at the success of Rainbow Six Siege, like, hey, wait a minute, those people came from Sony. Let's go ahead and get them back, rope in all that knowledge they have from that, and just make a multiplayer-focused Killzone. Like
Maybe, or maybe they're just helping out with the next,
Co-op
Guerrilla
and
game, the
Horizon
next,
or something.
Yeah, Horizon.
Yeah.
I'm sure
I
that
mean,
they're making.
I think between the two of them, as much as we all like Horizon, I certainly would welcome back. I would rather have expanded multiplayer and see what Killzone can do, in that capacity than trying to. And of course, we're all talking hypotheticals here, but then adding on some sort of multiplayer thing for Horizon,
Yeah, I could
would-
see him going for that.
I see what you're
though.
saying. Like, I would rather Horizon 2 be another good single player campaign.
Yeah.
For
Like
sure.
What I would rather have.
But
yeah.
knowing how ambitious Guerrilla Games is, and like they need a big feature, what are they going to do? Like even just environments. Like that first game covered so many different environments. I can't imagine cooler looking dinosaur robots out there. Like what the hell do you do? I feel like having some sort of multiplayer or co-op is such like a good back of the box thing.
Do you control the dinosaurs then?
Yeah. So it's kind of like it becomes a battle royale, and every robot dinosaur on the map is trying to get Aloy. And
That'd be
whoever gets there
cool.
first.
Well, just because like that combat in that game, which I thought was good, was all about like stripping things off the creatures, and it's all about fighting things bigger than you and like slowly whittling them down. I don't know
Yeah.
how well that would translate to multiplayer.
Well, co-op though, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, co-op. would be
Co-op,
cool.
sure.
Yeah, they got that Monster Hunter DNA already in there. They pulled her into Monster Hunter World, for Christ's sake.
Do it.
Yeah. Weird deal. It's exciting to think that, there's no universe where Guerrilla Games isn't right now just bunkered down working on Horizon Zero Dawn 2, just over there in Amsterdam. That's such a cool idea.
What time is it over there?
Oh, that's right. Well, whatever time you're listening to this, it's technically 6 p.m. over there in Amsterdam.
somewhere.
So, yeah. Somewhere. Rob from London says, hey, turns out your comment on why so many people think Judgment has an E in it struck a chord, as I was convinced you were wrong and that it actually does. Turns out either way is probably fine these days, with the E being more common in generic British English.
Cool.
So in England, they spell Judgment with an E.
Do they?
Apparently. Ready for this? Holden Hintz says, y'all have been living a lie that I've been stuck in for most of my life. My cousin got back from Guatemala and introduced me to mayo substitute for butter on your grilled cheese. Have you heard of this, Kato?
I was just nodding because I'm just acknowledging I'm listening.
Oh, I see. He proposed me 2 sandwiches, one with each style. It was very clear the mayo sandwich had a better flavor, and my life has not been the same since. I would highly recommend going mayo instead of butter on the outside of your grilled cheese.
Mayo on the outside.
Mayo on the outside.
Okay.
Okay, so mayo on the bread, and then you put the bread in the skillet?
Yeah.
Or you put mayonnaise in the skillet
Don't
first.
don't do that.
What? How do you make grilled cheese?
Also, Connor Campbell corrects it here. Connor says, hey, so the answer is that mayo helps to make the grilled cheese crisp up more. No, you don't use, like Hansen said, 2 inches of mayo. I was joking. You just put it on the bread like you would butter it, but it makes the bread crunchier or crisper. Also, it does not make the sandwiches more greasy either. My wife and I tried it. Now it's the only way we make grilled cheese, unless we're out of mayo. Rob says, hey, my wife makes delicious grilled cheese sandwiches. When she showed me her method, to my horror, she slapped mayonnaise on the bread and slattered it around. I assumed it's because she's Indian, and being a proper God-fearing Southern gentleman, I of course had always used butter. Also, she uses Swiss cheese. It was pretty hard on our marriage at first, but like any self-respecting man, I held my ground and now make Swiss and mayo grilled cheese sandwiches too.
All right, gotta
Swiss
try it
could be
now.
good. I think multiple cheeses. You got to get multiple cheeses in there.
Oh, really?
One of them should probably be cheddar.
Okay. Well, I think some people have some other thoughts.
Yeah.
Okay, question from Austin from Bourne, Texas. God's country, he says. I don't know about that. He says, hey, with the announcement of Darkest Dungeons 2, I was reminded of my greatest shame as a gamer, not finishing Darkest Dungeon 1's main path. This leads me to my question. Do you have any games that you enjoyed but never actually finished?
He should really be ashamed because Darkest Dungeons pushover.
Cakewalk.
Yeah, come on, dude. What have you been doing?
I was thinking about Beautiful Joe is a game that I love so much. I could not get past this one fire boss where it's like in this circle arena. I've played that game up until that point over and over again. It just sucks.
That sucks.
It sucks.
I really love Golden Sun, but I was literally on the last boss. Like I was trying to beat the last boss and I kept dying. And I went to a movie and left my Game Boy in my car, and my Game Boy got stolen. So I've never and then it was like there's plenty of other opportunities to play Golden Sun on Wii U or to just buy another Game Boy Advance cartridge. But like I don't want to. At the time, I was like, I don't want to replay this whole game. I've put like 40 hours into that thing, so I never went back and finished Golden Sun.
That sucks.
I'm so sorry.
But I love that game.
Sorry for your loss.
Mine's probably Perfect Dark. So I love that game. I played crap out of the multiplayer, but I also like the single player campaign. But you get up to that last boss and he's really hard. Did anybody play that?
Oh yeah.
And that like the controls on that, you have to like most of that game you can just like horizontally shoot things. You don't have to like look around as much because old school N64 controls. But that one you had to like look a little bit up to shoot at him.
Deal breaker.
Well, it was just so much harder and like
I don't.
The controls on that game.
It's frustrating when the end boss of a game changes the mechanics that you've
Right.
been learning the whole time, for sure.
And also there's no checkpoints in those levels. So you have to start at the beginning of the level each time because it's super old school game design. So it's like, I got to play this game, the level over and over again if I want to beat this. It's so frustrating.
It's one of my favorite games. I beat the campaign for the first time like 2 years ago.
Really?
Crap sucked. It was bad.
How long did it take you?
That's tough to say. It was like spread out over several drunken Thursdays and stuff. So.
Wait, you could beat it drunk and I can't beat it sober?
Yeah, that's right.
Oh,
Yeah, it was
my
very
gosh.
strange. Weird how that worked. Let's see. Connor from Norfolk, Virginia says, love the show and the people on it. Thank you. What are the best paced video games of all time? My top contenders are Resident Evil 4, Link to the Past, Animal Crossing New Leaf. 3 weird choices.
Paced?
Yeah, for Animal Crossing New Leaf, that seems like pacing doesn't even factor in for that. But Resident Evil 4, I feel like people bring it up all the time because that castle goes on for so long.
Yeah, there's parts of that drag a little bit.
Yeah. There's only one game that pops in my head for like beautifully paced. Maybe just because it's so fast that's what I consider good pacing, which probably says something about my brain. But that I'm very smart. No. Titanfall 2, I think, is the best paced game of all time. I think the campaign to Titanfall 2 just never stops moving. It's incredible.
I feel like it peaks on like everybody's favorite level where you're switching back and forth and it doesn't reach that high again. Is the only thing. So it's like the levels after that are still fun, but not as good.
Yeah, that could be. I might like the factory sequence more, which
that's
is
before
that.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
what I mean. Yeah. But I hear you.
Oh, sure.
I played at games, Limbo, Inside. I feel like those are
yeah.
really well paced. And they're not super long either, which I love. So.
Yeah.
I was going to bring up, I've been replaying the Uncharted games, and I think
would.
Uncharted 2 is really well paced. I was also going to bring up Portal.
Portal, yeah.
Remember we talked about it in Game Club that one time?
Great game.
Awesome.
Flawless game.
Did you watch that DICE discussion, like panel discussion between Amy Hennig and Tim Schafer?
No.
It was she
sounds
talked
cool.
about Uncharted a fair amount in there, but I like those two people a lot, so yeah, it's a fun video to watch. Let's see. Spencer Pfeiffer says, Mayo! Absolutely a pro strats only move. Seriously, though, at crisp and golden, so much better because of that egg and oil. Bryce Merrill and Noel also recommend going mayo but you have to put a minimum amount of mayo on there, and then it doesn't burn. They say.
What about
Very
olive
crucial.
oil? Would that work?
What about just an olive?
It would.
Yeah.
One olive.
Or bacon fat.
That sounds good.
Oh, butter.
Wait, yeah, butter.
Human fat.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right, now it's gross.
John Chandler from Arizona says, "Hello, you gods in the field of local live home entertainment." Jesus. Okay. Okay, Reeves, this is for you. I want you to describe something unique about your favorite game while doing an impersonation of your favorite character from that game. Now, don't tell us what it is, Reeves. And if the character doesn't have a voice, you get to create it.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean?
I was going to say.
Okay.
Well, you take your dragon, you fly him around your enemies, and then you can shoot and you build up a gauge.
Guess that character, Kyle.
It's from Panzer Dragoon.
And everybody knows the main character is
Ezekiel. I have no idea. I don't know.
Pansy.
Dude, you're dead on.
Is there a character named Ezekiel?
It's Panzer Dragoon Saga.
I almost said the RPG.
His character's name is Edge.
Edge?
Lord.
Like, isn't that a U2? Isn't that guy from U2's name?
It's Thedge,
Bono?
actually, yeah.
Thedge?
Yep. Todd Ledbetter from Santa Clarita, California. Kato, question for you. When going to a concert, would you rather know the set list before or not know it at all? Knowing what songs are coming up can allow you to go to the bathroom and grab a beer without fear of missing out on a good one.
I would say I'm probably for the set list because I think like a lot of people, you go and you check the set list maybe before you go because if it's something like, like an act that's been around longer, you want to make sure that at least you're going to get something you like in there and it's not going to be like just the new album,
So
hell or high water kind of thing.
Are you annoyed then when bands change up the set list too much on their tour?
I mean, I'm of the opinion that they can play whatever they want. You know what I'm saying? Where it's like, I understand an artist. If somebody's been playing the same song for 30 years, like I'll give you a pass. You probably don't want to play that song again. So, I mean, yeah, I'll just do whatever. Honestly, I don't go to many shows anymore because I've been to a ton of shows, and it's like I've seen a lot of the bands that I wanted to see back in the day. So it's like my list of whatever. Of bands to see is actually pretty short, I mean, the Beatles get back together, original members. I consider it,
yeah.
but...
I have a hypothetical for you that I asked a group of friends recently. How many times, sincerely, do you think in his life Paul McCartney has said, "Hey Jude"?
Like outside of the song?
No.
Including the song?
Yeah, including the song.
I
do you think that number
don't
is?
know. I mean...
50,000?
No, 50 million.
No, it can't be. Although, because, I mean, he's only really toured and played that, right? So in a solo capacity and probably a Wings capacity, because obviously they never toured that song.
Okay.
So I'm just trying to stall for time.
Please,
here.
please,
So I'm
please.
trying to put
He's
the
doing the
numbers
math.
together.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. He's probably done. It's probably lower than you think. I wouldn't say it's
4,000?
Yeah, I would say it's in the low thousands.
Really?
Okay.
Okay. I mean, he played it with Wings, though, right? Didn't he? Like, I mean, he would.
I think he did.
I think in that WTF interview, he specifically called out that song as one that he will play.
Well,
right?
but how long were they actively famous? You know what I mean? How long were they together in a band and gigantically famous?
Less time than you think, right?
Yeah,
It was only like
it
3 or
wasn't
4
that
years,
long.
right? Something like that.
So I mean, they
Come on,
didn't have
Kato,
any
Mr.
times.
Beatles, let's go.
I'm not Mr. Wings. Wings is
Oh, I see.
not into Paul McCartney's
I see.
solo deal.
I keep calling you Mr. Wings. How long have you
Behind
let me do that?
my back, thankfully.
Yeah.
I
You know,
thought that
like-
was just because you like chicken wings. I didn't
That
realize.
is weird. Spencer from Clifton, New Jersey says, "What game did you have the most fun reviewing of all time?" Kyle, Breath of the Wild?
Yeah, although that one was kind of intense for me because of my deadline was really short.
Yeah.
But that might
Most
be it.
fun, really?
Yeah, maybe.
Does it just mean the highest score?
Well,
Is that the easiest
no,
way
I think
to?
for me, I think like cooperative multiplayer games I end up having the most fun with because it's just like an excuse to call people over to your desk to play games. So like even if it wasn't like my favorite game, like it was probably the most fun to review.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
like Dan Riker probably had a great time reviewing Army of Two: Devil's Cartel.
Yeah, or like Friday the 13th even. Like helping Jeff review
right.
that was fun. Like that game's like okay, but it was just like being able to be in the same room and all play that game together was a good time.
That's a good point. Yeah. Kata, what about you?
I'm gonna go against kind of what Kyle said in a small way, which was I think, and I've probably told this story before, so I apologize, but doing Metal Gear solid 3. Ooh. That was the one which I know is a little contentious, because of statute of limitations is totally gone on that one. So I mean, with the whole riding thing and whatnot.
That's 2.
That's 2.
Sorry, 2.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So what we did it in, I want to say, over 2 days, mainly one night, Reiner and I, and so that was just a lot of fun because it was condensed.
Yeah.
And
so wait, what does that mean? So you and Reiner are in different parts of the Game Informer office reviewing that game and just going chapter by chapter and then going to the
I think
break
we were
room and
passing
talking?
the controller awful lot and stuff like that.
Is that
and
how second opinions worked back then?
Not all the time.
Yeah, not all the time. But it was just that it was a set of circumstances where it's like, we're going to bring it by, we have X amount of time, so you guys got to do it. And so I think that pressure was actually kind of good. I think similarly, actually, we did, I want to say 4, I went to Konami, and it was kind of cool because it was just a room. Like Joe and I did it, and they're like, game is in that room, bathrooms down the hall, the fountains, on the way to the bathroom. We'll see you at the end of today. And we basically got to play the entire game to our heart's content, do whatever we wanted, and then I think we came back the next day and did the same thing. And so that was kind of a cool,
fun.
all-in-one experience.
And
it
there's
was
so
literally
much-
just like a room with two systems, 2 TVs, and they're like, if you have any questions, I'll be outside
There's
the
so much to
door.
chew on with that game too. Just
Yeah.
must have been taking so many notes. Like, wow, they're wrapping up all these storylines, or at least trying to. All right.
So for 2, I mean, you guys were like, you had it pretty early, right? Before any of that riding stuff was known, right? So you guys.
Yeah, and you're kind of
that's
playing
cool.
it, being like, oh, there's a new character. Okay, cool.
When are they going to go back to Snake?
I thought for sure they're going back to Snake by
Yeah.
the end of that game. Yeah.
Yeah, but I remember at the time, just kind of one of those fishbowl sort of things. You're in it and you're playing it, and we were having fun with the games and stuff like that, and all the bosses and everything. That sort of philosophical question of well, why isn't Snake more in this? Just didn't. I was having fun playing the game.
That's interesting. Divorce from community outrage. It
Yeah.
was just the pure experience. It wasn't that big of a deal
Yeah,
for you.
it's like I had a conversation with Ben a while before of I played the ET 2600 Atari game when it came out. I was just I was a kid, of course.
Yeah.
And it was just cool game. I love the movie. Play the game. Awesome. You know what I mean? It had nothing to do with landfills or the game not being very good or broken or whatever. It was just that this is a cool game.
If you compare that to other 2600 games, though, it's I don't know, it's kind of on par with how those games were.
I mean, I think
most
Cork
of them.
is in the same camp. Of
Yeah.
it was fine. It was, it has this reputation now, but at the time,
And Zelda 2, I will say. I remember being a kid and being sweet, he's bigger, and I get to go into these people's houses and look under tables and get on top of tables. That was on my wish list,
Yeah,
on top of tables.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I get it, man.
I remember some of those battles, with the shield and the knight coming down.
They felt epic.
Whatever. I'm this is awesome. This is what I wanted.
Wow.
I've been talking with Kyle about, man, they need to remake Zelda 2. I really wish they would. I think that'd be fun. And really give it the RE2 treatment. Go all in.
we should get rid of the internet too, by the way, just so you don't. Just so we have those experiences again.
Yeah. Oh, man. It was so much better back then.
Where other people poisoned their brains.
Gosh.
Corbin from Dallas is wondering, hey, what's the lowest score you've ever given a game? Kato, I want you specifically. Do you remember the lowest?
I definitely have given a game a 0.5.
Holy God, what was it?
It was an N64 game. I admit I am totally spacing.
No.
Majora's Mask.
I would say, on that front, I will say I remember doing some of the early From Software titles on PlayStation 2.
The Kingsfield stuff?
Yeah, and I hated those games.
Of course.
We played them on replay recently. Well, not recently, but yeah, they're pretty rough. Yeah.
I'm sure there's no future for this.
And
studio.
I remember when I was From Software, and I was they're doing something new. We're that studio sucks.
I even remember in this office when Phil Kohler reviewed Demon Souls. No, I actually really like it. I was okay, Phil. All right, buddy.
Dude, Mr. Hipster.
Yeah, it was such a weird slow burn of wait, I actually have to pay attention to this, and then just that bubbling up in the industry of oh no, it's remarkable.
People like it. It's good.
It more and more sane people started to like it, and I was oh Christ, now I got to pay attention.
Now
to this.
I got to play one.
Yeah, it's a whole thing. Now we gotta do
now I like it.
now we have cover stories on it.
Do you know yours, Reeves?
I do. I think it's a 2. It wasn't that long ago. It was Fear Effect Sedna.
Oh,
a year and a half ago or something. Yeah. It was rough, man. I remember. Fortunately, it's not super long, but it's there are moments in that game that are straight up broken that I would have to reset and replay again and puzzles that just did not make sense. I'm like a crazy person sketching them out on a sketch pad. And then when you're like, is this the solution? And it worked. You're like, that doesn't make sense. That's not a solution. So yeah, that game was rough.
I looked up mine. It was a game called Oda Medius Excellent. It was like an R-type style shooter where you played as anime women with large breasts, and I gave it like a 3.25. It was like I had only been here
Some sort of anti-boobite.
I don't know what the 0.25 is, but it was just like that thing of like I hadn't been here very long. I think I was like a few months in, and I got this review, which like today we would never touch that game. And I was just sitting at my desk playing this game. It's just like, this is freaking embarrassing. I don't know what this is. This is awful. This is a bad game.
Yeah, we were hazing you, Cal.
Is that what you
Yeah,
did?
that was a joke.
Oh, and then I actually had to write the
I
review?
can't believe you actually wrote that.
Oh, man.
Steve, aka Rabbit Attack Donkey, says, "Hey, longtime listener to the podcast. Love all you guys. Thank you. I also generally love all the content you produce. With that said, the segment last week where you played that god-awful Alexa game had me wishing that I could take a giant hammer and smash my own testicles Gallagher style, or gouge out my eyeballs to escape the pain being funneled into my head through my ears."
I haven't seen Gallagher in a while.
Yes, I don't remember that Gallagher bit, but okay.
Well, might be working on a new bit after this.
Oh, that's great.
That's true.
This, of course, got me thinking and brings me to my question for y'all. What is your least favorite thing about being a video game journalist? Is there anything about your profession that makes you want to hit the bottle the moment you wake up? Love the show. Please continue the good work. I will continue to listen to every show, even if you play more Alexa crappy games. Thank you. Very
That's fine. Most people are really into that. That's like one of the few negative.
Hey, you said he'd listen to more, so what are you going to do?
Dang.
Least favorite thing about working in this industry?
Transcribing.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Can you explain how that works?
So you do an interview, you record it, and then you listen back to it, and you basically write out the interview that you've already experienced and done.
And are you playing it back in slow motion?
I do a lot of like stopping and starting and rewinding.
It takes forever.
Forever. Yeah.
It sucks. That's why you guys need to do more podcast interviews. Just crank them out. Get them out the door.
Just audio. You don't have to
No
do
one
that
finds them or pulls quotes from them ever. Trust me, it's the way to go. Just right under the radar.
That's mine. Transcribing.
Yeah, I didn't think
is
about
the worst.
transcribing.
Yeah.
It's probably way up there.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, we're talking like first world problems here. A lot
Oh,
of
yeah.
things.
Oh,
you know
yeah.
what I mean?
Absolutely.
But like,
Yeah.
You know, I guess, maybe to go off the bad games sort of thing, like, when you get a bad game and you know it's bad, but now you're sort of having to do your due diligence, right? Because you can't just say like, oh, this game's bad, period, end of review. You really have to dive into it, cross all your T's, dot all your I's, because you don't want to make that mistake where it's like, well, maybe I overlooked something. Was there, some sort of tutorial I missed or whatever? So almost that's like a weird thing of like, people like, you're still playing this game? Like, this game sucks, And you're like, yeah, but I got to get to the end, or I have to do this, or, or whatever. And I guess on another thing, I would say real quickly, again, we're talking about first world problems, but like, when you're interviewing somebody and they're just doing the script or whatever. And like, sometimes when you're interviewing somebody, you know they're not going to give you, they're not going to run down the entire plan for the PlayStation 5 or something like that, but you just want, you're doing your job and asking certain questions, and when they don't even address it or whatever, and they just try to again go back to the script. That's one of my pet
That's when you gotta shake them up. That's when you just call them out on that stuff. Just cut them off right then and there, man.
usually know pretty quick too. You're like, oh, I'm not getting anything out of this interview, and I got to be in here for half an hour. Like, all right,
Why not
this
just,
is a wash.
Why not just break them out of that mold in some way, right? Just don't even ask a question. Just stare at them, and then just like start pointing aggressively at your shoes, or just like anything weird, just to get them out of their train of thought.
Here's a question: you want to have a dance party?
Yeah, honestly,
Something like that, yeah.
Just something to crack that shield,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very good.
That's
idea.
really good.
Yeah, I'll start pointing at my shoes the next time
Thank
I run
you.
into that answer.
Do you still like reviewing games, Kato?
Yeah, absolutely.
Really?
I mean, and I think we're all in the same boat, but I think like as somebody who even does like the whole yearly sports games or whatever, absolutely. I think and like I said, you're playing a game, it's not great, but I think there's always new ways to approach the way you write that review. There's new things, there's context to think about of like, where's this game in relation to like other games, and there's bigger picture things to think about or whatever. And we've all written a lot of reviews, and sometimes you get frustrated when you're trying to think of how to say the same thing in a certain way. But I think there's always new challenges, I think.
Yeah. I think I'm growing to dislike reviewing things somewhat. Like, I've been talking to Quark about this not too long ago, and again, first world problems and all that. So it's like, even with a game like Resident Evil 2, which I loved and I gave it 9.5, it took more work to do that one page than it does any other like page in the magazine.
Yeah.
Right. And it's also like you have to just think critically about games in a way that is mentally exhausting. And again, like I could be like picking burnt potato chips out of a factory line or something. So like I like my job, but it's just
Your job of thinking critically about video games?
Yeah, it's just a little bit more like, I don't know. I feel good when it's done, but the process of doing it is frustrating.
But so, that's a good example you bring up because, as somebody who, obviously I wasn't in your head when you were typing that or whatever, but as someone who just read it and proofed it, I felt that review gave me a lot of context for the game. It aptly described what you liked about the game. I could tell it wasn't just like, oh, Ben had a great time. You know what I mean? Like I knew, why you were giving it the score you're giving it and stuff like that. So like, I'm not kidding you. Like you brought that up out of the blue, but like I thought that was a good review. And like when you can read those after having read so many different reviews, written so many different ones of your own, and I'm sure the readers are out there. They've read zillions of reviews or whatever. You come across something like that, and you're like, yeah. This is a good review. I can tell this is a good review.
You explained thoroughly why that 9.5 didn't make it Game of the Month over Kingdom Hearts 3's 9.5.
Thoroughly.
Just still pissy
Hands
about
down. I'll just say I'm halfway through Kingdom Hearts, and
I'm in your corner apparently.
that's all I'm going to
say. Sebastian writes in and says, "Hey crew, I listened to a German podcast of gaming journalists who have been around since the 80s. It's called Gaming Veterans. They talk about recent games, but once a month they go back into their magazine history 10, 20, and 30 years. They talk about what was a hot topic back then, read from the reviews, etc. Since Game Informer magazine has been around since 1991, maybe you could do something like this? Once a month, pay through an issue 10 and 20 years back. What games were hot? What games does nobody remember anymore? Depending on your demographics, that could be interesting for listeners." Totally agree.
Yeah,
that's
we
a cool idea.
we do that a little bit on Replay occasionally. Like
Yeah.
Reiner's been making it a habit now of like when we pick what we're going to play, we get the game and then he goes and looks up what issue it's in. He goes and grabs the issue. And I
Right.
think in the Getaway Black Monday episode, I think he read a lot of stuff. I think from
Yeah,
that
he was
issue.
barely listening. He was just reading through an old issue of Game Informer for most of
We
it.
said a lot of funny things, and he didn't laugh.
But to do it as like a specific feature, that's interesting.
Yeah, for sure. And it's like, it'd be fun to blow it out and actually let people look at the old magazine too. But then like for a video, how do you do that? Just like put a camera overhead and make it like a World Series of Poker cam. It's like there's no great way to kind of
Watch us read? Is that what we're
I
just
guess
reading?
so.
Super
Oh,
Replay.
Yeah. But
I mean, some of it is like there's some embarrassing things in some of those old issues.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Some?
A
Kato,
few select.
do you
things.
do you like looking at the super old issues?
Not really, from a design perspective, I mean, it just doesn't look good. It is amusing though when you come and you find, and we've all had this, where you come and you find that thing where you're like, I don't remember I wrote that.
Right.
You're reading and you're like, oh, like
What
this
was
is
it
good or bad.
recently?
And you're
That
like,
game that you insisted didn't exist?
The Last Story?
Last Odyssey? No, Lost Odyssey?
Do you know what we're talking about, right? Remember?
Yeah, I think I was on that. I went around the office and
Well, because like we were the new website messed up their old review, so we were fixing it, and we're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, Kato, this was your review," and you were adamant. You're like, "I did not review that."
The
And
website
did.
must have messed up. It was
Nah.
Lost Odyssey, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't Lost Odyssey, but it was a JRPG.
It was a sequel, I think, too, right? A
was
sequel to
something.
a JRPG.
Yeah.
But anyways, after you insisting for days that it was not you, then it turns out you 100% reviewed that game.
No. They went back into something about like, and it was a document. So I mean, like, let me just say that there's ways that could have been altered. That's all
I
I'm
will say
saying.
I have not been here as long as you, only like 6 or 7 years, but I am now running into that thing where I'm like, oh my god, I reviewed this. Like I have hit that. At
Oh,
point.
really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's fun. Let's see. An Attack Corgi has a surprise question for you guys. What's the nerdiest thing you know?
Probably some stupid film trivia. I'm like really
Yeah.
into film trivia.
Nerdiest thing.
Yeah.
Would it have to be
you slipped in
science
the word
related?
brilliant there.
That brilliant. What?
Yeah.
I didn't say brilliant.
No one said
I
brilliant.
heard it.
He whispered it. It was very weird. I don't know. I was talking to Joe about this recently. I think you were there too, Kyle. About how I'm really into like dates, like the years that movies or games
yeah.
came out. And so I'm not great at it, but I consider it a little bit of just a smidge of a talent for like movies specifically, and a little bit
Yeah.
with games, getting to know that year that it came out. I think that's kind of fun.
Yeah. Directors, I'm pretty good with.
Oh,
I just
okay.
like I know I'm the kind of guy that watches the credits on a film and I'm like, oh, that guy did that. Oh, I remember that. Like, which I'm always like nudging my wife at the movie theater, be like, hey, he worked on it. She's like, I don't care. Like, why are you bothering me with this? I don't care.
I know who created Spider-Man. Stan Lee.
Oh, really? How's he doing?
And Steve Ditko.
Oh, cool. This is a different type of thing. I'll cut you off. This is a different type of thing, but I committed myself to memorizing when I was in 8th grade Brand's Freestyle from CKY2K, which I can never...
Am I the only person who knows what you're talking about?
Some listeners out there will know, and I could never sing it out loud because it turns out it's extremely offensive. It has not aged well, but
it made us laugh back then.
It was very fun.
We were in different states, both watching our CKY2K DVD box set together.
Just missing something in our hearts. Yeah.
Do you know the Pokey Rap? Can you say that?
Oh, no.
Oh.
No?
I mean, I guess a little bit here and there, but no.
Charmander, Squirtle, Bulbasaur.
Oh my God, he knows the whole
Lin-Manuel
thing.
Miranda, ladies and gentlemen. Oh my God. Ryan from Thomasville, Georgia says, hey, Ben, recently IGN announced that their podcast will no longer have video versions. A lot of people were commenting about this. It's interesting how much of the overlap there is between our audiences.
Yeah.
And I guess it's like Beyond specifically is stopping the video version in a couple weeks, and people were really outraged. And he says, hey, any plans for the GI show to go audio only? Never! Take that, IGN! Yeah! No, yeah, we only got one, so yeah, we'll keep it video for you guys. If you like it.
One viewer?
Yeah, that's right. If you like the video version, tell a friend, please. Here's a thinker, Jason from Knoxville, Tennessee. Ready for this?
God's Country?
Here's something you have never thought about.
Okay.
Kata, how old are you?
I'm 44.
Yeah, what's
You're
your
a
address?
44-year-old man. You have never thought of this. I guarantee it. Ready?
Way to call him out.
Yeah. What does it matter? You're not weird about your age. 31.
Oh, okay.
Jason from Reeves is Reeves is self-conscious about it because he's secretly like 63 years old or some crap.
You should be proud of it.
Yeah. Jason from Knoxville, Tennessee says, hey, Ben and crew, is the game of darts the original turn-based RPG? Think about it. 2 players take turns trying to reduce a number value, HP, to 0. I assume this is like 301 he's talking about. Doubles and triples are critical hits, and the more a player practices, the better they get with character progression.
Well, here's, you blow his mind. Isn't Life the original RPG?
Yeah. Isn't Theater? Theater's like role-playing.
Theater, yeah. But there's no HP. I was like, oh, well, chess, checkers, but that's strategy. That's not RPG.
Right.
Well, but you're not talking to people. There's no story.
Okay, but
Is
just
that
in terms
an
of
element
like
you have to have?
attacking, lowering. I think it's a very good analogy.
I think it's like the original fighting game.
Shut up. A lot of debates in the office.
It's the original
recently.
shooter.
Oh.
Yeah, you might have something there.
Oh, first shooter RPG. Get out of my way, Deus Ex.
Oh.
No good.
And then you're looting the body.
Yeah, when you
more
accidentally hit them with a
darts.
dart.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Oh, nice watch.
Got it.
I never thought about it.
See,
You were right
there we
about
go. Steve Barfoot says, hey, Ben and crew. When I used to work at Five Guys, I found out they use mayonnaise to grill their grilled cheeses.
What?
Oh.
You believe that?
Oh, that's why they're so good.
Philip Stewart says, yeah, so I do use mayo most of the time for grilled cheeses. I live in Missouri. I saw it on a commercial once in my late teens, and I thought I'd try it. I think it's good.
I'm sensing a pattern for this email.
This is where it gets awesome. JT writes in, says, hey, this is JT Gresham from Fayetteville. Hang on.
All right, he's backed away. He's looking for something over there. I'm just trying to
Virginia?
keep it going
Rustling.
so he doesn't have to edit this out later.
Oh, my gosh.
He's
He's
like-
puking.
Oh, are you okay?
Non-stop puke.
Jeez,
Oh, where
what
did he
you
get
have
all
for
that
lunch?
food? Oh, my. Wait a minute. A small person is growing out
I
of
got
his
it.
mouth.
Sorry, I checked
Oh.
my cheat sheet. Of course, he's from Fayetteville, Arkansas, which everybody knows that's what AR stands for.
Yeah, yeah.
Augmented
says-
reality.
Yes. Fayetteville VR saying, hey, last week you guys talked about putting mayonnaise on grilled cheese bread rather than adding butter. I'm here to inform you that yes, this is a thing. Before my current job, I worked at Unilever on the Hellman's Best Foods mayonnaise account. This is a marketing firm, apparently.
Actually, Unilever is like a consumer packaged goods.
Oh,
It's
really?
like the giant.
Oh.
Like, you're wearing, you've eaten, you've ridden something Unilever.
Oh, they own a million things.
About
Okay.
5.
Oh, geez. All right. I had no idea. He says, for months, we worked on a marketing campaign to encourage people to use Hellmann's mayonnaise on grilled cheese rather than butter.
It worked.
They claimed it makes the bread more golden brown and extra crispy. Maybe you should try it out and talk about the experience on the podcast. You can use any brand of mayonnaise. I don't care. And then he linked to the marketing campaign, which is like a commercial from Hellmann's about like, hey, everybody. Oh, yeah, it says, put mayonnaise on the bread for grilled cheeses. Then in big text, it says, trust us. Reeves, this video,
good.
how many views do you think this video has?
804.
2.3 million views.
What?
Yeah. So mission accomplished for
All
JT.
right.
This
Good
is
job.
why you're talking about mayonnaise on grilled cheese so much in this episode. You're trying to get that hot YouTube traffic ahead.
Yeah, exactly. The SEO is off the charts.
Did we just sign a Hellman account?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It was weird when we started this email section, you were talking about butter. And it's funny. It's very, very appropriate.
That's the old way to do things. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
not talking about butter anymore.
We're done.
No more.
A lot of people wrote in saying how they found out about the show, which is very self-indulgent, but I think it's fun.
It's interesting. I'm
Yeah,
curious.
Josh from New South Wales, he found it based on the Shenmue Super Replay.
Oh.
And then it started recommending GI Show on YouTube. Turns out YouTube recommendations are like #1 reason for people writing in at least. James from Scotland started following with the Dreams coverage. Thank you, new listener. Shane Cunningham said, I started watching you guys when I ran out of IGN shows. That's typically how we get traffic. When you hit bare bottom IGN.
IGN runoff. Perfect.
They run out of scoops. They come to Game
But we're
Informer
Outlast
show.
and Beyond for video versions, damn it. Jared from New South Wales. Ooh, New South Wales is very popular. Says that he was looking for more information about Cyberpunk 2077 during E3 and found our little breakout video about it. He
Yeah, because Reiner was among the first to see it, right?
Yeah, I forget if he was on that podcast discussion about it specifically, but I don't
Anyway.
think he was.
He
But
was
says,
just doing like rambling. He was just like doing
Oh,
a brain dump. I remember
Yeah,
that
yeah.
That's
story.
good. That was the biggest
Yeah.
story of
it's still the biggest story on the new site.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Anyways, this guy says, despite being scarred for life by the sight of Ben Reeves doing a prolonged Basic Instinct impersonation on the podcast in those shorts, I'm sorry, in those children's shorts he was wearing, I've been watching ever since.
Where should I be shopping? Where are you going to find shorts that are shorter than that? Oh, wait. Should they be longer?
It's unclear. Let's see. Nick from Barkhamsted said the Spider-Man cover story. He started listening. Thank you so much. Brian from Oro Valley says that he's a big fan of Joystick, and then that carried over into Alexander Silowinski. Sorry, I butchered your name. Which then carried over into connection to Mike Futter, and then when Mike Futter came to Game Informer, he started listening here. That's
Oh,
great.
interesting.
Cool. Ryan Burlinson says his friend Cody posted on Facebook because he won Email of the Week, and that's how he found out about it.
cool.
Which is like, that's perfect. That's what we're going for. By the way, in terms of big recurring themes and emails, as far as the greatest work of art of all time, Kato, people have been writing in with the debate, what is the greatest work of art ever created by human beings on planet Earth? Do you have a gut reaction for that, by the way?
Should we share some front
No.
runners?
No. Let them go cold.
So am I trying to advance my own then, or am I guessing here?
No.
advance
What do
your
you
own.
think?
Yeah,
What
you're
do you
personal.
think?
What do you think is the greatest piece of art created by humans? Is that
Okay, these are all in the same vein, but I'm going to go with my gut here, and it's like it's the stink lines from like a fly, on a piece of poop, whatever, or maybe the fart, like the passing wind, sort of like the lines,
Like
with,
in-
like the cloud.
in cartooning specifically, right? Like,
yeah, it's like it's succinct. It's
Hang on. Do we got it?
Hold on. I don't think you need to read these anymore. We
got it.
I mean,
We did it, everybody.
You go back to the antiquity cave drawings. I mean, it's got to be in there, right? And
Yeah.
you'd see it today, and you'd be like,
I mean, you're a child
done.
and you see that drawing, you know exactly what they're trying to
Yeah.
imply.
Right.
And that's why we brought on Mr. Wings.
Yeah. Wings. Wings. Anyways, this
Are you
guy
enjoying
says,
this, Kato? Or
This guy
is it making
says,
you uncomfortable?
Ryan says it's the new, he says it's the Apollo 11 landing is the greatest work of art of all time, which I can
Art?
see it. He says he saw that
Technology.
new documentary, the Apollo 11 documentary. He said it's incredible. And that convinced him that's a great work of art.
not talking about like the etchings on like what is it
But
the etchings on the Voyager.
no, that was brought up
vinyl or
before.
anything
That was
like
somebody
that.
pitched that before.
So this is is it like what Men from the Planet Earth? Blah blah.
just the
blah,
concept of mankind landing on the moon is art.
as art.
Yeah, I think that's interesting.
Performance art, I guess.
Here we go. Jordan from St. Paul says it's the album Revolver.
Okay.
Okay.
Ooh,
Kind of freaked me out when I was a
Too much?
child. Yeah.
I get it.
What's on it? What are the hits on there?
That's like And Your Bird Can Sing, Yellow Submarine,
Okay.
Tomorrow Never Knows,
Gotcha.
Taxman.
Taxman.
Wings.
Oh.
The second greatest work of art of all time is Replay Civil War. Thank you. That's interesting. Nick of Mansfield, England says it's Bohemian Rhapsody, which somebody else also said. Not the film, the song. Nick says specifically, though, that it's Muppets Christmas Carol. Trey says it's Russia's 2112. Come on.
It's a good song.
Alex from Greensboro, North Carolina says it's the Werehog. Come on. Mike from Concord, New Hampshire.
Hampshire
Says it's Dragon Quest III's Famicom box art. It's very good.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Last email. Ready?
Yeah.
This is from Henrik Mortensen from Norway. International podcast this time. He says, "Hello. I sent a mail with a little game."
From the East End of
I don't know. He wrote it. I don't know.
Hey, hello. That's what it says.
I sent a mail with a little game about a year ago, and you seemed to like it, so I made a new one for you. I will name 10 levels, characters, weapons, etc. from a game. You have one guess each for each word about what game series this is from.
Okay.
You got it? So I'll keep listing. It's just basically you buzz in with your name, buzz in with your guess when you think you know what it is. This is
okay. So you're going to list a bunch from the same game.
from a game.
Gotcha.
So this is characters from a game.
Okay.
Billy. Silver Nielsen. Beastman. Octoman. Antonio Guster. Pico. James McLeod.
Kyle. Star Fox?
Incorrect.
Oh, I know what it is actually.
Yeah, very good. You pieced it together. Dr. Stewart. Samurai Goro.
I know
It's all one game?
I know exactly what
This
this
is an iconic game.
I think I even know which entry it is.
There is one character left that will give it away. Captain.
Oh. Ben.
Yes.
F-Zero.
F-Zero.
Is it F-Zero X?
He didn't say specifically.
Okay, because that was the 64 one, had a ton of characters.
So
in it.
is there a McLeod crossover there?
Yeah, it's like he looks like Fox McCloud.
Oh, really?
Oh,
he's
weird.
a human.
Is he a fox?
No, he's a human, and he's wearing like Fox's clothes.
Oh, okay.
And his ship kind of looks a little bit like an R-wing.
Has that been in Smash Brothers somewhere? It has to have been, right?
I don't think so. Not that I don't know. Maybe as a whatever their spirit
trophy or
maybe,
whatever, or
something.
spirit?
But yeah, James McCloud. Yeah.
Okay. Levels from a game series.
Okay.
Breegull Beach. Terrarium of Terror. Mayahem Temple. Glitter Gulch Mine. Kyle.
Banjo.
It's a series.
Tooie.
It's Banjo-Kazooie is the
Okay,
series.
all
You
right, I
got
was
it.
going
Very
for
good.
Tooie,
Very
yeah.
good. Mumbo's Mountain would have given it away.
Yeah.
Villains. Ready?
All right.
From a game series.
Series. Okay.
Galanth Disley. Shadow Lord.
Christ.
Ba Gamnan. Mateus. Cloud of Darkness. Arden. X-Death. Come on, we're getting there.
Is Kyle Final Fantasy?
There we go. Yeah,
Oh.
way to go.
All right.
There's a Cloud of Death that tipped me off.
What was the
Cloud
last
of
one on the
Darkness.
list?
Sephiroth.
Okay.
So X-Death, Garland, Kefka, Sephiroth.
Okay.
Characters. Oh, these are good. He orders these so
I
beautifully.
like these games.
This is good.
Karen Jones.
Wait, sorry. What's the
Characters
category
characters
again?
from a
Okay.
game.
Okay.
Karen Jones. Sean McGuire. Charles Smith. Come on. Susan Grimshaw.
Oh, Kyle. Red Dead Redemption 2.
There we go. Grimshaw. Sure. Lenny, Pearson, Micah, John, Arthur. What if we just played it completely straight and just didn't get any of those?
Who was the first one again?
Karen Jones.
Who is she?
She,
Is she the writer?
is she the one that's in love with Dutch?
Oh, no. Huh?
Is that Annie or something? Or
I thought she had
Annie's
like
the one that got the
Irish
gun.
name or something.
Is that one of the outlaws you find in the swamp? Is it for like the cards? You know, you're supposed
she
to go
was-
track down the historic.
I
Yeah,
don't
maybe.
know. We're all
Legends or
blowing it.
whatever.
I'm sorry. Game of the year, though. Not from us, though. I forgot. Bosses from a game series.
all right, here we go.
Here we go.
Here we go,
Here we
everybody.
go. Centipede Demon. Pinwheel. Bed of Chaos.
Ben?
Ben.
Castlevania?
Incorrect. Damn. Crossbreed Priscilla. King Vendrick. I'm sorry, fans. Sir Elon.
Matt.
Oh, Matt.
Yeah, I'm gonna take so I actually participate in this segment. I'm just gonna take a flyer and say Joust.
Incorrect.
Oh, that's a good shot.
Joust.
You said Castlevania?
Yeah.
Joust.
Looking Glass Knight.
Oh, Kyle.
Kyle.
Dark Souls.
There we go. Wow. Way to go. Joust just right up there, though. Characters.
Here we go.
Characters from
This one you'll get read.
characters from a game series.
Uh-huh.
Careful. Careful. You only get one guess. Don't blow it.
Ooh.
Russell. R2Q5. Characters from a game series. Seamus Finnegan. Thor. Riddler. Kyle.
From a
Series?
Yep.
Injustice?
Incorrect.
Oh, wait, I don't know what. I feel stupid now. Okay.
Indiana Jones.
Oh,
From a
I know what it
series.
is.
Lightning McQueen.
Kato.
Is it Disney Infinity?
Incorrect.
Oh, wow.
I got
That's
it.
actually what I was gonna
Aragorn.
guess.
I got it.
And it's the series?
I got it.
Aragorn.
Okay.
Should be a good clue. Anakin Skywalker. Emmett. Kyle.
Okay.
Lego
Lego.
Dimensions.
Lego. There we go.
I think I said it first. I think that was mine.
Oh, Ben Reeves, you got it
That's
first.
right.
Way to go,
You
buddy.
did say dimensions for what it's worth. I don't know if it's specific. It could specifically be dimensions.
Oh, because they're all in there?
I think so.
Interesting. What do you guys like for email of the week?
I did like that game. It's always the temptation is always to just give it to the most recent one. But I
But
enjoyed
sometimes, look, the heart wants what it wants. You
Yeah,
know?
that's true.
Yeah, I
As
think
a
it's
wise
that
man
one.
once
What were
said.
the other big ones?
I like the future of the Xbox versus PlayStation. It's the
That's good.
discussion of the era.
I just like being reminded
Chess
that
versus
Samurai
checkers.
Goro was a character in F-Zero.
That is so weird. Boy, F-Zero is sure a thing, huh?
Yeah. There's like 30 characters in the N64 one, and
I
they're
like
all
the
crazy.
I like the person that worked on that specific campaign to get people to eat mayonnaise grilled cheeses, which is very impressive.
We really should, reward him.
Yeah.
For all his hard work.
Well, I think we're going to reward him by watching that video again and then eating grilled cheeses made with mayo.
Does he still work at that company?
No, he does not. So you want to go with the game? It's tough to deny that game.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
I
work
think we
into
gotta
that.
do
It was
it.
well done. Good
Good,
list.
good job, Carl.
Yep, that's Henrik Mortensen.
That's right.
From Norway. Congratulations. He always says he hates the show. Well, let's see you hate it now when we put Norway up on the big board, ladies and gentlemen.
He hates the show.
He ends every email saying, hate your show.
That's funny.
It's a
Perfect.
weird joke. You know those Norwegians.
Me and Carl are close.
Okay, anyways, podcastinginformer.com for emails in the future. Help make the show better. As for now, let's learn all about what it's like to work on Call of Duty games. I try to figure out the budget of a Call of Duty game. Working on creating Dead Space, the entire career of somebody who's seen a lot of the industry.
And freezing
You
yourself.
should ask him what the greatest piece of art in human
Oh, because
history
he's an
is.
artist.
Yes.
Well, I didn't do that. We already recorded the interview, but stay tuned for an interview with Glen Schofield. Glen Schofield, welcome to the Game Informer Show, sir.
Thank you for having me, man.
You've been on this in the past. Normally, you're like answering a ton of questions about advanced warfare. I think you're on again for World War II and stuff. But it's nice to have you free from the Activision cloud. This is just pure Glen at this point.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
How does it feel? How does it feel to be out of the machine?
Well, it feels pretty good. I was able to take some time off, which is what I'm doing now. Maybe it's only been a month and a half or so, but it's already felt really good. And I had a really good run while I was there. So we made 3 Call of Duty games over the course of 9 years and built a studio, and so I feel pretty content in leaving them in a good place.
So when you leave this, I mean, are you sitting back in bed or in the shower just thinking still about Call of Duty? Is it just completely from your mind? Are you still obsessed with it? Or how often do you think about Call of Duty at this point?
That's a really good question because I don't think about it that often. I guess it's brought up to me an awful lot. And so I'll think about that and always, I seem to be brought up a few times a week by people talking about Call of Duty. It happened today in an email, so I guess I do think about it more than I was even thinking I thought about it.
Was that I mean, is it nice when you're going on these long vacations after leaving Activision? Do you think in your mind, like, I just can't think about video games. I can't think about Call of Duty. I can't think about what the community wants. Just for a week, let me just enjoy this vacation.
Yeah, that's funny. You know, I took a little time off, and I went down for a vacation just on my own. It was like a spa, trying to just relax from everything. And I came back with 15 ideas for video games. So I guess I can't. It's hard to turn off. I'm always trying to think of something, a mechanic or something. When I'm playing a video game, then I'll be thinking about that, and so it's always video games are on my mind.
Yeah. Okay. So you get these 15 ideas in a notebook, a Google Doc, or something, and then what's the next step? Are you committed to making these things? Like, where do you go from there?
Well, they go in my list of other games I haven't made, but you know, I end up going back through these lists from time to time and using parts of stories or using different mechanics that I come up with, or sometimes it's just a partial idea. But none of this ever goes wasted. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, are you taking a lot of meetings at this point? Are you just hungry to get back in the game industry, or what is your life like these days?
Yes, I've been doing quite a few meetings. I'm actually flying out for a couple of days tomorrow, and then GDC I'll be pretty darn busy.
Yeah, I'd imagine.
So looking forward to GDC.
It's not a case of like you're committed to staying small. You want to start an indie studio or anything like that. Like you'd be happy going back to the AAA space.
Yes, I would.
Really? So it's not
either one. You know, I've been playing a lot of the new games these days, and really enjoying them. And you know, everybody's like, "Well, you're in AAA, you can't do mobile," and I'm like, "My gosh, I've gone from 2D to 3D, from 8-bit to today. It's not to say that you can jump into it, but it's put some good people around you and you learn about video games. So I'll go into either one. Right now I have ideas for both.
Okay, right on. So playing current games today, I'd imagine you can't dodge Apex Legends. Are you playing Apex Legends?
Yes, of course I am, man.
What do you think?
Yeah, I'm not too good at it, let me tell you. I know I'm only a pixel high and I'm getting shot in the head, but no, I'm having a good time. It's a good game, right? They really put it together well, and it looks like a step up from the others. You know, I've enjoyed PUBG an awful lot myself, and we'll still play that from time to time.
Yeah, that must have been bizarre to be within Activision during the entire rise of Battle Royale. I mean, were you in a lot of those meetings about like what can we do with Call of Duty and Battle Royales? How can we marry these two together?
You know, World War II came out just before, I think it came out with PUBG.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't really affected, say, by the Fortnite effect. And Fortnite came out right after that, or at least really took off after that. So it didn't affect any of my games, but I know meetings after that were peppered with Fortnite.
You just can't dodge it. And I mean, and you were at Activision corporate for a while too. I mean, did you have those types of meetings there of just, all right, let's get out a PowerPoint presentation. Hey, this is the biggest genre in the world. Let's go for it right now.
Well, the truth is, I wasn't in. I had a corporate position, but I was working on other stuff for them.
Oh, okay, interesting. All right.
So I always stayed busy. I always stayed in games. Did a little prototype for them. They didn't go for it, but they should have.
Okay, this is an interesting phase. So I think like the public perception is just the idea that you and Condrey went to Activision corporate, at least in our minds, and please correct me every stage that I'm wrong, just to like, hey, let's try and get some new IP rolling within Activision. Was that part of the idea, is like we want you guys to whip up something good?
Yeah, I mean, we actually went our separate ways at that point, Michael and I.
Okay.
And he was working on something for them, and I was working on some new game ideas.
With the overall idea of like Activision could use some new IP right now?
You know, I don't know if those words were used. I mean, I know nowadays people are using those like they need one. At the time, it was like, hey, let's see if you can come up with something.
And so you just
which
went,
I did.
Yeah. So you went to your notebook and combined some ideas and said, here we go, we got one?
Yeah. Took some time off, just to get away and design. Yes.
Oh, what was it?
Huh?
What was the project then?
Oh, I can't talk about that.
Okay, I'm guessing it's not a shooter.
Well, I can't tell you anything about it. I'm stuck. So I'm probably already saying too much, but
no, you're doing all right. Okay. Well,
no, look, it's hard to get a great new IP going, and you got to put time and effort and money into these things, and we put time and effort into it and some money, and it just didn't work out.
So it's interesting looking back at your Twitter account here in like August and November, you're tweeting about the mystery project saying like, hey, it's really cool. It's exciting stuff. I can't talk about it, but it's awesome. I'm still under the cone of silence. What I'm working on is pretty freaking cool. Is the point of those tweets just because you are so passionate about it? Or is there also like, God, I'd like to make sure this project sees the light of day. And in order to make that happen, maybe I have to connect some community to it.
The first reason is because I want to talk about it. I've been talking about Call of Duty for years and been able to talk about, whatever. And it seemed like the only thing I could talk about was my art at the time. And so anytime you're working under a project like and look, we work on these many times during the course of your years. You're working on different ideas. They really are under a cone of silence.
And you get used to that. It's not the end of the world. It's like, well, it's probably never going to see the light of day, and you can live with it.
Yeah, for a guy like me who wants to have him see the light of day, it hurts at times, but I have enough more other ideas that it's okay.
Yeah. Is it a one-to-one connection? I'm sure it's complicated, but between the project not making it through the light of day and then you leaving Activision?
I mean, there's a little of everything. If it was time, after 10 years, and not seeing the project greenlit, it was time. It was time.
Yeah, time to go.
But on the other hand, I don't want to sound. There's nothing bitter. There's no, everything about my years there were really good, right? I really enjoyed them. So it's. I never thought that you'd leave a place without a gig, right? I never thought about that, but nowadays I see why, right? And it was, unfortunate at this point in my career I can and look for the next thing that will allow me to do something really great.
So I like the idea of you like gunning for a spa once you get out of there. Is it a more stressful industry than you think the community, the wider internet would appreciate?
When you're in it?
Yeah.
Well, you love hearing from the fans. You love that, right? But there's always a percentage of it that isn't stuff that you love. That can get pretty stressful and hair-raising, and there are times in which you're actually scared.
Scared of what?
Something happening. You'll get an email, you'll get a text, you'll get something that will, not be right.
You're saying death threats from fans? Is that where you're going here?
Not necessarily death threats, but enough to make sure that you have good security and you've told enough people.
Really? Did this happen a couple times at Sledgehammer?
It happened twice with me, and then I know a number of people where it does happen.
That's brutal. What do you do? Do you have just staff meetings trying to talk your way through this?
Well, the authorities get involved.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not only on people, on a person and their family, but it's on it's really on the product and things like that. So the company will get involved and make sure that everything is fine with you.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be tough for you guys because you're the faces of so many Call of Duty games at this point. So it's like, all right, you're gonna be the lightning rod for people reaching out and just the community. I mean, I can't even imagine what your Twitter feed is like. At a certain point, you just get burned out from fans demanding things from the next Call of Duty game?
I don't think burned out is the right. No, I don't think so, because we're taking feedback, right? The problem is sometimes that somebody will say one thing and somebody else will say the exact opposite. I love your shotgun. I hate your shotgun. It's the worst gun I've ever played. And, it's at that point, you're going to make somebody unhappy. And that happens all the time. You're like running into stuff, right? And so that's probably the hardest part, is trying to reconcile how do you make, as many people as you can happy. At the same time, you don't want to ruin your vision of your game and what you created.
Yeah. What advice did you give Aaron, who's running Sledgehammer at this point, as you were leaving? Did you sit him down for a good father-son chat?
No, I don't think we really had that. Aaron is he kind of grew up with us over those years, and he was involved in all the meetings. He was, he was our right-hand person. So Aaron can handle his own.
Yeah, that's nice.
That's how he was put there.
I'm really curious, what else don't we know about what it's like to run a studio? What are those boring parts or the rough parts of the job? What's more difficult overall outside of, some community pressure?
It's funny, as the team gets bigger, you start to not know their names.
Oh, interesting.
And at about 75 people, you can really know everyone's names. At 150, you can't. And when we got up to 350, I was starting to get messages from people who left that I didn't even know had started, because you're at such a big size that you try and keep a family atmosphere, and it's really hard to at something like that. And so it's harder to please people when you got that many people. And then the problems that come up, just personal problems you would never imagine with a smaller team. But it's interesting to go through all of that, and have some of the downfalls, but so much good stuff running a studio.
What do you think was the most exciting day for you? What was the happiest day that you had at Sledgehammer?
Oh wow, that is a really good question. I mean, it was a really happy day when we won Action Game of the Year on Modern Warfare 3, because for many of us that was 2 in a row. That was Dead Space, and then it validated our first game for Sledgehammer. So I remember that being a very happy time. But we've had movie stars, we've had all kinds of people that would stop by. The sports people come by all the time. So it was fun having them. We had Klay Thompson and a bunch of the Warriors over, and so Clay Matthews was great. I did a little bit with him on ESPN, and he was fantastic. He was just funny, really good to work with. He's as funny as he is on his commercials. He was wonderful.
Nice. So in the build up to Modern Warfare 3's release, was there a lot of tension in the studio of can this new studio pull this off? And you co-developed that with Raven, right?
No, we co-developed that with what was left of Infinity Ward.
Oh, okay. That's right.
And they still had a great team there. A really good team of people, and they had lost a lot of their managers and things like that. So there was we did a little bit more of the managing until Activision was able to get some more people to step in and help out. But we pretty much did the single player, and they did a lot of the multiplayer, although we went back and forth, of course, an awful lot. I look back on that, and I learned so much from working with them, and I think vice versa, because we had just made a big hit game as well. So I think there was a real mutual respect at the end of making the game. When I see the guys, there's a real personal hug and a handshake when I see them.
You guys are in the trenches together. Does that feel like the most miraculous landing out of any game you're developing?
Miraculous landing. Yeah, the fact that we got it done in 2 years was really miraculous. It was a little less than 2 years, and we worked hard. Oh, man, we work hard. I mean, you always do, but that one, we had to learn. We had a new engine to learn. We were hiring people. At the same time, we're doing Call of Duty. Yeah, it was a tough time. But when you're done with it, like you said, you feel like you went through war, and you won. So it's a great feeling.
Yeah, and then after that, I forget, was the game in Cambodia? That was before or after Modern Warfare 3 development wise?
That was before. Yeah. No, I guess it was after. That was Black Ops 3, I think. Yeah.
Oh, Black Ops 3 was going to be?
No, Black Ops 3 was. Oh, wasn't that was in Hanoi or Bangkok or something, right?
No, but weren't you guys working on the third-person Call of Duty?
Oh, that.
Yeah.
Yeah. We called that a Fog of War. Yeah, it was in Cambodia.
Okay, all right, there we go. And that was before or
yes,
after?
Absolutely right. Yeah. That was 6 months before. We spent about 8 months on it. It was third-person action. It was pretty cool. It still had some of the scary elements because we had just done with Dead Space, and you're in the tunnels in Cambodia and Laos, and the tunnels underground were really scary. So we had some pretty cool scenes there. We had some neat stuff. That would have been pretty cool.
Ah, that sucks. And now it's just sitting on a hard drive forever, just lost.
Yeah, somewhere. Yeah. It's third person. Probably looks like crap right now, but back then we thought it looked really good.
Yeah, there must have been like extra feeling of accomplishment then when you get Modern Warfare 3 out the door, because it's like that was a rush, but then also it's like I'm sure you guys were just pouring your heart and souls into this other game that doesn't happen, and then it was like, okay, slapdash, we got to work on Modern Warfare 3, and then you pull it off in a miraculous way.
Well, I remember when the Activision execs came up to the place, up to Sledgehammer and said, we'd really like you to make Modern Warfare 3. What do you say when someone asks you that? You're like, yeah, of course. Now, we did put it to a vote. I think we maybe had 40 people then. We put it to a vote, and it came out pretty unanimous that we were going to make Modern Warfare 3. So, and that was the right choice.
Oh, just because it was the safer choice, or why do you think it was the right one?
Because we got a hit game out. And we all just learned so much, working on that game, because Call of Duty just pushes your quality. No matter what people say about Call of Duty, it's like working for Disney. It's like you gotta do the best, and you gotta be the best. And I think we were on our third person one. We were kind of doing our own thing. We're going like, yeah, we're doing Call of Duty, but we're doing our own thing. But when you get on the big boy, when you gotta get on that thing, you gotta make sure that you're doing your A game. You're bringing it every day.
Yeah.
And that you're hiring people that bring your A game every day.
God, so you were in an interesting spot because you were with Call of Duty when they shifted from the 2-year development to the 3-year development.
Yes.
And all that stuff. I mean, was that just a lifesaver? Do you think that level of game is even sustainable on a 2-year turnaround?
No, it's hard because the third year is really, I should say your first year is really, you're doing DLC.
Right.
You're spending all that time doing DLC. You've got a small team that's gone off and they're starting to do, some brainstorming and concept work. It's a pretty good sized team, enough that you can get the design of the next game going. You usually have ideas already, but you got to get it going. But you're spending a lot of time on DLC.
Yeah, I mean, do you feel like AAA development is sustainable where it's at now? Do you feel like you eventually hit a decent clip with 3 years? That seems like a decent time to turn around a Call of Duty.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's hard. You're rushing, and you're in the end. But we usually hire really good developers. They want to come on and work on Call of Duty, and just in the end, we always seem to turn out something really good. But I would never say it's a struggle, but I would never say it's easy.
Okay, but it got slightly less of a struggle towards the end of the studio than the early days.
Oh yeah, and. The 3 years absolutely helped. Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, what do you think a lot about just Activision as a company and their path forward these days? Is it pretty divorced in your mind, or do you ever just think about like, God, here's what I would do if I was Bobby Kotick up there?
I don't get too involved in thinking about it right now. I mean, now that I've kind of left them behind, and they're part of my resume. I want them to continue to do good. Bobby's become a friend, and I have a lot of friends there, so I want them to do really good. I was disappointed when the layoffs hit, and I had friends who lost their jobs. But I'm hearing something. Is that me?
Yeah, it must be you. It sounds good over here.
Oh, that's good. But no, I don't think about Activision that much anymore. You know, having spent 10 years thinking about it and being in the trenches, you know, they've got some new people there. My boss is gone, my boss's boss, that sort of thing. So it's not like I know everybody there anymore.
Right. What do you think about just the weird situation that studios like Raven and Beanox and High Moon are in within Activision these days? How do you liberate those teams and get them creating new stuff?
Well, they're doing such good work, and you know, I can't talk about what they're working on, but you know, they are really talented teams that I just can't say too much. I can't see too much. You know, I've loved working with Raven. I've worked with them for the last 8 or 9 years. So really good studio, and they have their fingers in a lot of pies there.
Yeah, it's got to be tough to be a studio like that, though, with your fingers in so many pies and just spread out instead of like, this is our sole vision, this is our IP that we're creating here.
Yeah, maybe. But I've never heard them talk about it. You know, they've always just been great partners. So
yeah, unsung heroes in the industry for sure. It's crazy. All right.
Yeah.
Now in your new era of game development, if you could make a sequel to any game that you worked on before, which goes back a hell of a long ways, including crap like Home Improvement and Home Alone 2, Street Fighter the movie. If you could make a sequel to any game, what would you go for?
Well, it wouldn't be Street Fighter the movie because Raul Julia's gone, so we'd need him back, right?
Yeah, you're right. That's tough.
Yeah, of course it would be Dead Space. You know, that would be one I'd love to do a sequel for someday.
Like Dead Space 4 or like kind of like a confusing Dead Space 2?
No, I wouldn't say that the other twos existed. I helped do a lot on number 2. But I would probably do something that I didn't have to follow some of the lore of the other 2.
Just because it got pretty complex over there towards the end?
A bit, yeah. I actually thought in the end, like when they introduced all the aliens and everything, I was like, wow, you didn't need to. You got necromorphs, right?
Yeah.
Why didn't you need anything more? But it did beg the question, you know, who came up with the marker, so I understand all that.
Yeah.
And I'm still very good friends with Steve Papoutsis, who ran the last couple, so.
That's right,
As a matter of fact, we talk almost every day.
Do you think a game like Dead Space 4 could exist in the industry these days? Like, what would it take to get that out the door?
You mean in terms of money?
I guess so. It just seems like EA's been on a spree of canceling, games that aren't able to live on after the release. It seems like Dead Space 4 ideally would be in that mold.
Yeah, unless you could come up with a multiplayer, that would work with something like that. So. Or something that engaged the people a little bit more. I mean, story modes don't have to be one player, and I think that's sort of the key these days. Is how do we make story mode for everybody to play, and everybody to understand the story if they want to. So I think Dead Space would take on a different. It wouldn't take on a different look, but it might take on a different way of playing it slightly.
Okay, what do you mean? You're talking just more co-op or just working lore into the multiplayer?
I'd probably just start with co-op, and work from there, like I guess the last one. Yeah. And then try and get some sort of I think there are just different types of multiplayers that could exist with Call of Duty, with Dead Space, and still bring in a lot of fans.
Yeah, I mean, that's just what it takes. Do you think there's any universe where you could pitch a new Dead Space to EA without multiplayer and have it greenlit?
I don't know. It seems, everybody seems to be saying the single-player story mode is dying, and then we have some giant hits that come out that are still story-based. So I don't think they're dying. I think they have their place now, and they can still make a lot of money. They can still, you don't have to put in $300 million into some of these games, $50 million, you make 250, you make $300, $400 million, that would be enough for many players.
Yeah, for sure. Do
You know?
you have a number in your mind of how much a Call of Duty costs to make? Do you ever see a chart somewhere and just your eyes fall out of your head?
Oh, I know how much it makes. How much it makes?
No, I'm sorry, how much it costs to make?
Oh, I know how much it costs to make. Yeah, it does fall out of my head.
Are we talking north of 150 million?
I can't talk about that at
Ah,
all.
come on, Glenn.
Not even close to talking about that.
Damn it.
Let's just say it is a lot more than Dead Space was.
Okay. But there's still, I mean, World War II is the best-selling game that year, right?
Yes, all of them every year were the best-selling game. Yeah. That's why it's no matter what the cost is. Well, they do really well, right? But you have to make a good game. In the end, you still have to make a good game.
Yeah. Did you feel? I mean, I'd imagine everybody in that studio is so motivated, but did you ever feel anybody kind of resting on the Call of Duty name laurels, or is it just an extra motivator? Like we need to hit this quality bar because it is Call of Duty.
Oh, I never felt anyone in the studio resting on Call of Duty. I think there were times that I would feel like people would say, "Hey, this is Call of Duty. It can't fail."
Right.
You know, and I think those days were over. You know, I think everybody knows that, you know, even Coca-Cola has to do a lot to stay at number one. And, you know, you got to work really hard. And so I think what it did was when people came on, I know that when we brought people new on board, they were excited. They were nervous. They were scared. You know, this was a big jump for their career in many, many cases, probably in almost all cases. Because it was, once they looked around and they saw the developers that were working with them and the track record that they had, and I think that would surprise fans of Call of Duty, is just like, this isn't what people call, you know, they call it copy and paste.
Yeah.
It's anything but. It is the hardest work, you know, to make a new game, to stand up a new game. And a Call of Duty game, like I said before, is a Pixar / Disney type experience in which you just have this quality bar that's so high, and you got to get to it every time.
Is it helpful to have that mold at least, though, of like, you know, look, we don't get to start out from a complete blank slate. We've got a Call of Duty mold. We know we're going to have to do something multiplayer, something single player. It's going to have big set pieces. How helpful is it to have that starting gate for you guys?
Very helpful. Very helpful. Especially after you've gone through one. You understand what it is going through it. Because even the marketing experience isn't normal, right? You're on tours and you know, going all over the place, which is fun. But after a while, I mean, there were times when I was gone 30 days. You're getting used, you know, just, and sometimes 15, 20, 30 interviews. You know what it's like. You could just one interview after another. So there's a lot to step up to with Call of Duty.
And what's crazy to me about the Call of Duty brand is I think from the outside point of view, it's like Call of Duty's Call of Duty. You're going to buy it every year and have a good time. But I'm just amazed how like the three main Call of Duty studios differentiate themselves, and like even the little sub-rivalry within that. Is that a real feeling of you guys really competing against each other?
No, well, we want to do better than the one before, but we're always rooting for them to do good. That's the nice thing about being on the Call of Duty, is that I could turn to Mark Lamia or any of them at any point and say, "Can you give me some help?" And they'll give you advice, help, whatever. The teams help each other out. No, there's no doubt about it. When they finished Zombies, I remember I hadn't done my first Zombies, so I went down and spent some time with the Zombies team to know, you know, okay, what is it about it that's sticky and stuff like that. So no, we help each other out. We're rooting for them, but that little rivalry that we want to do better than you is always good, right? Competition is good in that way, but it's a very healthy rivalry.
Oh, that's nice. That's really good to hear. How different is the code base at this point? I don't know how technical you get, but I mean, do you feel like programmers from one Call of Duty could easily jump over and help out with another studio's, or is that engine just customized in a unique studio way?
I'd be really talking out of turn, but I can only tell you what I see and hear, and that is that, you know, each one has got a lot of things that are the same. Then there's a ton of it that's different, right? It's the code between each individual game. Now, is it easy to go back and forth? The engineers do. They go back and forth when they have to, but most of the time I think they're working on stuff. And again, do I know? I don't know. Like a physics engine and stuff like that. Stuff that they maybe have had their hand in helping create. They're all different parts of the engine that get worked on. And sometimes we'll take it from the last game. We'll go, oh man, that physics engine is fantastic. Let's take that. And so we do that.
Okay, that's a bizarre handoff. I'm way too fascinated. It's a bizarre handoff that you have just this evolving, weird, amorphous engine that kind of is the same, but it differentiates in different ways. You can kind of plug certain aspects in. It's weird.
Well, it has to change because at some point you have to finish your game. And you don't have time to talk to the other teams, and you don't have time to change your engine or fix your engine or ask them. You're just working on your game. So for that last year or so, the engine is going to change. You've got a ton of engineers in it. It's changing every day. So by the time the next team got it, they would have a year's worth of changes that they wouldn't understand anyway.
Right.
So that's why they would probably grab from their last one and then take the additions from ours. Now that's just kind of what we did then, but any team could do what they really wanted, what was best for the game.
Yeah, for sure. You got some art behind you, see there, Glenn.
Oh, yes, I'm always painting and drawing. Yeah, you bet.
It's amazing. If you follow Glenn on Twitter, it's a constant stream just of amazing art that you're cranking out. Do you sell that? Do fans of the Call of Duty games buy your art?
I've sold. I don't really have galleries that I go to. I've been in a couple of galleries here and there. I'm in a show now, a small one. I'll sell my pieces from time to time, but to be a full-time artist takes full-time effort. It really does. I did it before I got into video games. I got into video games from being an illustrator in Manhattan. And I got a job to do 2 covers for Game Boy. And I look at the back of the art on the game. So I'm doing the cover. And then when I get the cover, I look at the art on the back, and I'm like, I can do that. Right? So I naively went into the video game industry thinking that I knew all about, all the restraints that there were on the art at that time, because I think we must have been 1 bit. But my first game was 4 shades of that off gray Barbie Game Girl. And then it only got better from there. So that's how I got into the video game industry, was being an artist.
That's wild.
And then I was an artist for the first quite a few years.
Would you ever want to go back to those days and work on the art in a pretty hands-on way with video games again?
Oh, it's so complicated now. I'm a used to guy who's painting. You see my drawings and paintings in the back, so I'm used to doing that. All the 3D stuff, I just barely got into. I couldn't keep up with with them right now. I'm teaching it. I'm not teaching that at school. I'm teaching now at the Art Academy, but I'm teaching in the games industry, in the games department.
That's interesting. What's that like?
Oh, it's really rewarding. Really is. I like going back to colleges and high schools and talking about the game industry, because we're always trying to get more people in. But we just need more diversity as much as possible in the video game industry. So it's good to start young. And it's really great to be, my class is in teaching them how to get ready for the game industry, and portfolios and websites, and how to write the best resume and all of that. So really trying to get ready. And then I get the shot at the best students.
Oh, interesting. For moving on in your career, you mean? You're like, I'm going to remember this kid's name.
Oh, yes. Oh, man. At Sledgehammer, we were the #1 hire for the Art Academy in San Francisco. Yeah, we would hire quite a few really good students coming out of there. And the game companies, they have this final show coming up in May, and all the game companies go to them. They're really, really talented people coming out of there. So I feel fortunate to be able to give back a little bit.
Yeah. What's your #1 lesson? What's the thesis that you're always hammering into kids' minds?
Oh, that's a good one. I tell them when they're when they go on a interview, to research the company before you go. Know who you're talking to. Know all about them. Know whatever you can. I had somebody come in once, and we were on the fence with them. We weren't sure. And they asked me to come in and interview, and I said to him, "Do you know who I am?" And he said, "No, I don't." And I said, "Not that I'm famous, but all you had to do is look up Sledgehammer Games, and my name would pop up."
Right.
So we didn't hire him based on that. I said, if you're not going to research for yourself, why are you going to research for my company?
That's interesting.
So I would say research and be polite, be really polite, and show passion. Show that you want to get into the game industry.
Yeah.
Because we want to give jobs away. We want to give them away. It's fun. That's the most fun part of our job is giving jobs to people. But we wanted to give it to people who are deserving and who really want to be there.
Yeah. So you have a Rolodex now, though. So in the future, when you get back into the game industry, you can pull from them.
Yes. I'm already starting to contact some of them now.
Oh, that's nice. All right. So if you got that miraculous $50 million budget for a game of your choice, what would you want to make? Are you sick of shooters?
Sci-fi.
Sci-fi.
Yes.
Third person?
Something sci-fi. And I like to go dark. So it'd be darker sci-fi. It'd be on the realms of Alien kind of thing, you know?
Yeah.
Would I delve into horror? Probably a little bit, but you know, I think the shooter part of me would come out as well. But I'm more of the belief that when we meet our alien friends, they're not going to walk on 2 legs or 4 legs, that they're going to be amoeba-like, or they're going to be something that's just not that great to look at. So, I just look at the Earth and I go, look what's under the water. Imagine what's on another planet. You know?
Yeah, it's going to shatter your brain. You want that weird, just fucked up creature that you can't even fathom killing.
Yes. And that's the kind of maybe that sounds hopeless for the future, but that's the kind of future I see in terms of like looking for aliens. So that's the kind of game I would like to make.
I think like
continue to make.
Yeah, with your pedigree, it seems like okay. Then you just want to make the spiritual successor to Dead Space. I mean, that's your dream project.
Yeah, either that or if I made a big, let's say I was going to make a Mass Effect type, you know, where they've got dozens, hundreds of different alien types, right? They wouldn't look like that. You know, They would be in fish tanks and cages and we, you know, just not like that, but it would be different and darker.
Yeah.
And I would love to make a darker world like that. Like the other planet is like, man, they don't understand us one bit. We're trying to be friends with them, but it's just not working, you know, or don't go to that other planet. You should see what's there, you know, but that's kind of what I like to do.
And then you end up shooting them. That's the result here?
You're going to kill them some way.
Some way.
Yeah.
All right, sounds good. All right, I got to ask you one more thing. Just following you on Twitter, this cryotherapy nonsense.
Yes.
What the hell is that? It seems like some nonsense that only rich people are into. What is this thing?
No. It's either rich or sore. Not poor. It's sore.
I see.
Supposedly you go into it, and I'm telling you, when you come out, you've got this adrenaline rush because your body freezes. You're freezing for a short time, and your body goes into protect mode. So it pumps all this blood to all your body parts supposedly, and when you're done, it goes, hey, you don't need it, and it rushes to your head. I don't know. I come out there feeling pretty darn good. Does my knee feel any better? No, not yet.
Okay, so wait a minute. Like, what are the temperatures we're talking about here?
170 below.
Bullshit. That's insane.
No, I'm not kidding.
For how long?
For 2.5 minutes.
No human being can survive that.
Yeah, some of these guys go in. I'm in there with the Stanford football team. Yeah, they go in there with their shirt off. They're crazy.
And this helps your knee somehow? I don't get it.
It hasn't yet, but it's my head. But it helps these guys, I guess. You know, they're in there all the time. I've done it 3 times. It scares the hell out of me.
Yeah. I mean, do they have like an emergency chute so you can just get the hell out of there in a millisecond if you need to?
There's no lock on the door or anything, but it's when it closes, just like the cold steam, and you're like, oh man, oh yeah, it ought to be illegal, but it's not.
That's so weird. Bizarre, man. You've had a bizarre, successful life. I hope you write a book someday about this stuff.
That's so. Me too. Yeah. Well, thank you, sir.
Hey, thank you. Anything else you want to say? Anything you want to get off your chest?
No, I think I got an awful lot. I appreciate it, but I really do.
Right on,
thanks
man.
a lot, man.
No, I appreciate your time. And thank you so much for watching or listening to this episode of the Game Informer Show podcast. Be sure to tune in next Thursday, and we'll have a new episode waiting for you. Bye, everybody.